recording live to Facebook. And do gallery view when he goes in.
Yeah. Well, there goes the Daverhood. Good morning, everybody, and welcome on this Saturday morning, this COVIDian day of May, our last Saturday in May 30th, 2020, for another edition, the 748th edition of the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the stream. With me, Dave Lefkowitz, and my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, is here, helping out on the Facebook. Potatoes are here on their little potato mountain. It's a little weird, because I keep forgetting when I'm on Zoom that everything is reversed. So these potatoes are actually to my left. Can you see me on the thing? Does it look left?
You can anti-mirror Zoom, but don't do it.
Oh, why would I not want to anti-mirror Zoom? See, on there, it looks like I can't even tell. But anyway, welcome. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. We do this mix of comedy and culture and humor and interviews, and we mix it all up, and we're certainly going to do that on this episode of the show that we are calling ZAG ZIG. Zigzag, because our guest is going to be an actor, a Broadway person, a national tour person, as well as a voiceover person named Stuart Zagnit, veteran performer for like 20, 30 years at this point, or maybe even a little more, has been on, let me get my notes, just so I do this right. He was on Broadway in Seussical. He is in the fingers crossed upcoming revival of Caroline or Change that was supposed to have opened a couple of weeks ago and may open in 2021 early at some point, one hopes. He has toured. He was in the original national tour of Crazy for You, and he toured in Wicked as well, but you might know him. I certainly, with all due respect, I don't know any of this, but he does a lot of voiceovers for Japanese cartoons, among them Pokemon. And if you watch, and I know you watch hours and hours of Pokemon, but if you do, the voice that you hear when you hear Professor Oak, sorry, I mean no disrespect to Stuart Zagnit nor the Pokemon franchise when I say, but he is the voice of Pokemon and Pokemon 3 and Pokemon Speed Racer and
David, this is the closest thing we have to Pokemon here.
Joyce has, oh crap, hold on. Joyce has found
it's a proxy.
An object. It's a proxy Pokemon.
It's the only thing we have that's yellow that's not as extra.
Is it the only thing, really, the only thing more yellow than this in this house are the underpants I'm wearing. So look at this. This is, he'll have to make do. The eyes are sort of the same. And it's got this head thing here. Dude, I always confuse Pokemon with Pac-Man.
I think Pokemon Chirp.
Yeah, why?
Because Pokemon's the game that they find, the virtual game where they find them. But now with COVID, Pokemon have to stay 6 feet apart.
Oh, my gosh.
You can't do Pokemon chasing now because of COVID.
Well,
you can do it in your home.
I do. What else is there? So I just chase Pokemons around. What are those other things? Pikachu is the famous one, right?
What's the difference?
I don't know. Or maybe Pokemon is the whole game, and this would be
my friend's son who knows like the anime stuff.
Oh, that was 15 years ago when he was a child. He might remember it.
No, I think he still draws like that kind of stuff.
Really?
When she went to Japan, she got him some anime stuff straight from Japan.
Yeah, but when you're that age, it's all this sex octopus stuff.
No, I don't think it's a sex octopus.
I hope it's a sex octopus. But you know, they have that weird, like, women having relations with tentacle creatures,
Oh,
which is. I was going to make a joke, and it totally flew out of my head. I may remember it as I play our weekly theme music here and our official opening, since, you know, got to make these things official, of Dave's Gone By.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. There goes the Daverhood. And there was much rejoicing.
Didn't your meds kick in yet?
You got David Lefkowitz here. He's a Long Island Hearts guy. He's got his own radio show.
I want you all to really enjoy a wonderful program done by a fine artist.
A glorious thing of unparalleled beauty.
Dave's Gone By. Dave is one of my very favorite broadcasters, so keep on listening to Mr. Dave.
Well, as I said, it is not a tropical hot dog night, but it is a COVIDing day here in the Daverhood on Long Island, where every week we do the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the stream. Very happy and proud to do that for you every week, as we have been since October of 2002, when we did our very first one. And as I said, they're always a mix of the zany, the somewhat serious, the interviews, the kooky, and just kind of what we do here on Dave's Gone By. So as I mentioned, one of the things that we're excited about is our guest in the Daverhood is going to be Stuart Zagnit, the actor, the voiceover guy, but also we have a lot of our typical, standard, usual, but wonderful pieces that we do. For example, we will have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. Oh, yes, we will. We usually save that towards the end of the show to force you to keep listening. Now, the segment itself lasts usually about 45 seconds, but we want you to spend about 2 hours and 55 minutes to get to that point where you hear me do a horrible limerick about someplace in Colorado. And this week, it's going to be about, this is actually a place. It is a ghost town, but this small, tiny, unincorporated town in Colorado is actually called Last Chance.
Oh, God.
So you got Last Chance, Colorado.
You just think, like, I mean, I run out of, like, names, but how many, like, is there any other name you could name something like Last Chance? What, food before you go on the...
That's exactly what it is. It's the idea of, hey, get your gasoline, get your provisions, take
it's
your
like
pee.
Intercourse PA or like all those names, you know?
Well, Intercourse PA, that's it. Now we're talking, or Flushing, New York,
Yeah.
when you think about it. But,
But Flushing is Dutch, I think.
is it really?
Yeah, and it's like my favorite one on the Metro North when I used to go up to Fordham.
Mhm.
One I was Spite and Dival, which I
Oh,
always
I
thought
love
was like
Spit and the Devil. Yeah.
Spite the Devil or
No,
something.
Spite, yeah, Spite.
I loved it.
Yeah. No, there's some wonderful names, but Last Chance is very,
It's
mostly-
ominous,
yeah.
but it's also predictive, so you know before you go.
Yeah. You know, if I don't go to the bathroom now, it might be 50 miles before my
You
next
could stop and
shot.
go on the side of the
Well,
road in the bush,
you could,
but you haven't.
even when I don't have to. Sometimes I just like to christen a tree that way. It's just what I do. Anyway, I also do this program, Dave's Gone By, which has as well, not only will I make you suffer through the Colorado Limerick of the Damned, but every week we also do a wretched pun of destiny. And these are brutal. These are little tiny, tiny short stories that generally end with a play on words that is, I mean, if you think people are rioting across America now, thank goodness they don't listen to this show, because if they did, they would just riot. They hear the pun at the end of these stories.
I thought you were supposed to call this insanity.
Well, can you explain to me how you have a riot where people can't stand within 6 feet of each other? That's what I understand.
Well, even the protests in Manhattan, it's like you still have to maintain social distance. It's like, I think what happened was that the rioting obscured COVID in the news and people instantly forgot. It was like amnesia. Like,
Yeah.
oh, no more COVID, you know?
Yeah. Either that or it's like, okay, You stay over this.
Yeah.
I'll throw the brick. Wait
lost
90
it.
seconds. You grab the TV. I mean, what do they? How do they do it? They don't care. People think COVID is over. That's the real deal.
I think it's wishful thinking that people want it to be over so badly.
Right.
They're just, they're just.
That's the thing. They're going to behave as if there's no possibility of a further spike, which personally I don't think there will be until October anyway. But they're going to think, we've done our bit. It's sort of like people see it almost as a punishment. You spoke out of turn in class. You did something, so go write your name. I will not talk 100 times on the blackboard. And when you put down the chalk, you're done, right? It's over. Your punishment might have been written in some little book, and the parents might get told. But essentially, you go back to class, and you've done your penance. You've paid your price. You've done your time, and class goes on. Your life, as a student, goes on exactly as it was. People feel like, oh my God, for all these weeks, I've been home. I haven't socialized. I haven't gone to parties or bars. I haven't barely shopped.
It's worse because most people, we live in a society where if I want to talk with you, I text you, I WhatsApp you, like we're FaceTiming
all of that they can still do.
No, but people want constant, quick response.
Yeah.
And there's no constant, quick response to COVID. It's not the sprint, it's the marathon, right? It's a long haul. And I don't think people just want quick fix. People don't want to wait. And that's the hard part. To have, everybody struggles with patience. I do too. Mm-hmm. But people are losing the capacity for longevity, like waiting.
People, who I blame? And Potato's not going to like this.
Uh-oh. I
blame Heinz Ketchup.
Why?
For changing the paradigm on this. Because, seriously, for decades, and Potato, I know how you love Heinz Ketchup. Be careful what you say. I may riot. No, Potato. Here's the deal. For decades, Heinz came in these glass bottles.
Yes.
And that was the thing. It was sort of, you would open the ketchup bottle when you were waiting to pour something on hot food or your French fries. French what? Potato, let me finish my thought. Okay. So you open the ketchup, you turn it over, and what happens? Not a goddamn thing, right? It's like, okay, wait. I think it was Ogden Nash who wrote that poem about marvelous thing, the ketchup bottle. First none comes, and then a lottle. I'm mussing up the words. And they even got, I think it was Carole King, to, I don't know if she wrote a jingle for them or they just used her song Anticipation. Do you remember? You were young, but do you remember those commercials? Anticipation is making me wait. It's making me wait. And as the ketchup is just sort of sitting in the bottle, waiting for gravity to do its thing, right? And then eventually, little bloop, 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 and finally, aha. So there's that sense of, it's coming. I just have to be patient. Mm-hmm. It might take me a minute. It might take me 2 minutes. My fries are going to be cold by the time this comes out of the bottle. I'm serious.
No, but most people stuck a knife in the bottle. And
or there was that old legend which sort of, you hit it on the 57, right on the bottom where the 57 is, you go, and it dislodges.
The restaurants, because they recycle ketchup by mating the bottles together at the end of the day. That's nasty.
I mean, I don't mind that. But what happened was, Heinz, even before they were faced with all these gourmet ketchups and all these artisanal ketchups, Heinz decided to make life easier for people. And they invented not just plastic bottles, which was great, because you didn't have to worry about them breaking when they fell in the fridge or something. But they invented bottles that you could essentially hold and squeeze, which meant that you could open the bottle, turn the thing over, go, and in a very controlled stream, immediately you could go, and the ketchup would come out in a beautiful flow that second, right? And then you could eat your fry, it would burn your tongue, and you would be happy. Because it would be so quick between the ketchup coming out of the bottle and going into on your palate. Oh, sorry, what? Well, so remember, everybody loves ketchup. Everybody eats ketchup. It's the most magnificent condiment in the universe. I don't even wear condiments, but ketchup is the best. And so if you figure millions upon millions of people are used to patiently waiting, holding the ketchup, anticipating, right? And so that's okay. That's part of the lifestyle. It's a moment when you are thinking about, oh, this is going to taste so good. Whatever the food is, right? Either it tastes like blech, but it's going to be okay because you bring ketchup on it, or it's going to be like a steak or something. It's going to be good and even better because you're adding ketchup. Either way, you're just sitting there. Your salivary glands are going. You're excited. You're anticipated. You're on tenterhooks, and it's part of the joy. You're taking that moment of just sort of hanging there, waiting, and you're either thinking about nothing or you're thinking about food. But you're probably, if you're holding a ketchup bottle like this, you're probably not thinking about problems at the office. You're probably not thinking about COVID or rioting or police brutality.
What I posted.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
See if it's in there.
Joyce posted, if you're watching on the Facebook party thing,
I don't know.
Joyce
No,
posted
there's
some
no
ketchup.
party, it's just in the regular comments.
Oh, no, regular comments. She posted on our site. But so, you're waiting there. And the only equivalent as a man, and women won't understand this, but the only equivalent that I can think of at the moment is the fantastic joy that a man has, especially kind of when he gets up in the morning or really all day long as he's not in public, of scratching your balls. You ever do this, men? And women, I'm explaining something that maybe no man has explained to you, and you just sort of sit there, you've caught a guy doing it, and you're looking like, what the hell what are you, an animal? Are you a gorilla? But a guy will have a little bitty itch, and he'll just start scratching in the testicular region. And he can do this nonstop for 3 to 5 minutes because it's just the most spectacular thing in the world. Men don't like to meditate. It's a waste of time. It's boring. We can't get into it. Meditation for a man is taking 2 to 5 minutes and just sort of standing there, scratching your nuts. And nothing's in your head. You're not worried about the mole on your back that could be cancerous. You're not worried about your best friend, getting furloughed from a job. You're not. All you're thinking about is, you literally you lose 50 IQ points while you're standing there going, so good. These 2 fingers, right? Well, that is, at least men have that equivalent of the ketchup bottle pouring down. That ketchup bottle in that time while you're waiting. It's like, you're not solving an equation, even though people have said it's kind of like downtime and daydreaming. That sometimes that's when you get your best ideas because all these synapses have stopped and it allows creativity to flow. Albert Einstein could have figured out relativity while holding a ketchup bottle this way, or for all we know, he was scratching his nuts. But either way, it's in those moments of waiting and nothing sometimes that are some of the most important moments we have in life. Well, Heinz took that away by creating the squeezable ketchup bottle, by creating something that's like instant gratification. Instant, now, must have ketchup this second. And I believe me, as a ketchup eater, on most of the time I appreciate this. But Joyce was saying, notice how I tie all these things together. Joyce was saying that we have no patience. We demand everything instantly. And I blame Heinz and the H.J. Heinz, the Kraft Heinz company, for
Not
being
so close to the anniversary.
in their 150 years, right? When they have barely changed the recipe, but except for the corn syrup thing. So.
Do you want a drink? Is that
Oh no, I just drank. Thank you, sweetie.
Or just say corn syrup.
But I blame them because they've changed the idea of something where you were used to waiting. It was okay, right? And now here we are. People have been quarantined or self-quarantining for 2.5 months. That's a very long time. But imagine, and I've said this before, imagine if this were 1937, right? Or 1927. And all you had, no TV, No Netflix, no Hulu. Yeah, radio, okay. Probably had a Victrola that you could crank up or
Probably had a Victrola.
or play some 78. So it was it wasn't like an aluminum hand crank thing, but you have these 78s that you could, and you had books, right? Imagine if it was 1837. And you had books, you either had to have candlelight or you had to read between
David,
seven.
That's my
yeah.
favorite Twilight Zone
Yeah.
episode.
Mhm.
The man gets, remember the guy wants peace and quiet to read. It's like Armageddon, and there's nothing, and it's just peace and quiet.
Oh.
He has all the books, and like me, because I'm so nearsighted, his glasses break, and he can't read anything. Is it?
That's a
Burgess
classic.
Meredith,
Was it Burgess Meredith or Wally Cox? But I think.
I don't know. Yeah.
But no, that is the absolute classic Twilight Zone. And what's the line from the Twilight Zone movie where they even reference that in the beginning? Albert Brooks and Dan Aykroyd are talking about it. And they say from that, when I saw that, I always made sure I have a spare pair of glasses, just in case, right? So, and I feel like that over the past 2.5 months in COVID. I've got a lot of time on my hands, and I still feel like I don't have enough time to do what I want to do.
Somebody called Lisa, called you, but we can't talk on the phone because I said join us in the neighborhood, so they probably.
Oh, Lisa, thank you so much for
Do you know
one
this person? They're related to.
Really? Hold on one moment, folks. I have no idea. Why?
No.
Oh, she may know
Yeah,
that,
okay.
but I don't know. I'm not really going to take phone calls because we have a guest coming on the show in about 40 minutes. It's going to be Stuart Zagnit, as I mentioned. We'll also have, as I said, Colorado Limerick of the Damned, our Wretched Pun of Destiny. We will have our Inside Broadway segment. We're going to give you some Broadway news because I do love me some theater, even though there's no theater going on for a while. And we'll have a few Greeley crimes and old times, courtesy of the Greeley Tribune newspaper. Ooh, pardon me. And our Today, Yesterday quiz. Of course, we got some great quiz questions, some trivia questions about May 30th in history.
You know you're never going to stump Sif.
What? They went like 6 for 9 last time. It's not 9 for 9?
They're like the Jeopardy Ken of your show.
Yeah, basically they are. You have to play against my cousins, Cynthia and Jeff, in our trivia quiz that we call Today, Yesterday. And if there's time, there was last week, and I rather enjoyed it. I'll go back and do another Dave's Big Dictionary, where Joyce will thumb through this book, this old Webster's New World. It's not really a new world when we have to have tape on the spine to keep it from falling apart. But she'll thumb through this dictionary, put her finger on a word, and I will have to come up with about 5-10 minutes of stuff to talk about, which I obviously don't have a problem doing. How are you, my darling? That's my darling wife, Joyce.
I got so much stuff going on. I don't know.
Well, Joyce is helping me out with her.
I'm trying.
Although I got to say, I really appreciate it because she woke up this morning at like 5:45. I'm like, and of course, won't let me sleep. She's like, I'm up, and she's cleaning the dog poo because dog poop. and she checks her phone, and she got a ping back from a journal that she's trying to get an article published in. Sorry about the grammar. And they said, in the usual academies, oh, we like it, revise, resubmit. So when you tell that to someone like Joyce, it goes like, oh, okay, let me rest a little more. I'll go and have breakfast, I'll maybe shower, wash up a little bit, I'll watch a little TV, and then sometime later this afternoon, since it's my weekend, it's my Saturday, I'll start working. No, like 6:05. Joyce is like, I gotta edit this. I gotta make the corrections.
I always say so for my advisor, God rest her soul, like she loved Jack Russell Terriers, so
yeah.
I'm like a Jack Russell Terrier with a squirrel. I'm like, squirrel! I like it. I like I need to have some mental stimulation during COVID.
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice thing. It's obviously to start your weekend knowing that an article you might have feared was going to be rejected is suddenly like, oh, if you make these changes, we will probably print it.
I have probably billions more rejections than acceptance. So
welcome to me. That was me in high school. It was rejected nonstop. Yeah, and then believe me, as an actor, like I had my shit. I still do. I was so pissed off the last 2 weeks of, and I talked about last week, of trying to find some guests for the show. I mean, I'm thrilled we got Stuart Zagnit on this week, but I got a lot of people who are Facebook friends or that I'm tangentially don't know them personally, but connected with or can get to, because I've been doing this show for so long and I've been a theater guy for so many years. I'm so far from a VIP, you can't even imagine it. But at the same time, a lot of people know who I am. And I do have fans on this program.
Like your mugshot that did it.
Like it could be that mugshot that I had. But so it's astonishing me that not only
Are you wearing pants today?
No.
Okay.
And if you stay long enough, you just might say, no.
I'll be back in 1 second.
So here's the deal.
Do you want
No,
a drink?
but I figure, what's that?
Drink? I'm gonna go down. Do you want a drink?
No, I'm
You don't
fabulous.
want your Italian soda?
Later,
Okay.
yeah. Thank you. But I was getting really consternated that not only would I get turned down for interviews for the show, and it's not like I was being turned down by Neil Young or Taylor Swift or Vice President Pence or no. I mean, these are not the people who are saying no. These are people of particular interest to me because I'm a theater guy and I like kooky nostalgic things as well. So I'm contacting people who really should not have that much to do right now, unless they're doing like Zoom theater or benefits or things like that. These are people who should be kind of home and ready and available and happy to be asked. And a couple of them, one I totally get. One was just not in a good headspace and said so, like replied almost as soon as I wrote and said, ordinarily, sure, but this COVID thing has just made me real depressed and fine. I'll try this person again in a few weeks. And then there was somebody else was having some family issues and health, of course. But then there are other people I feel like, no, not right now. There's this 92-year-old composer that I was going to get to. I'm not going to name him, I could, I should. I'm not going to name him. But he wrote one really big Broadway musical.
Amadeus?
Is it? No, it's Wolfgang Amadeus. He wrote a very, very, very famous Broadway musical with a classic song in it.
Is it Stephen Sondheim?
It's not. Oh my God, I would love to have it. And you know what? Sondheim is welcome to reject my. Sondheim can.
Just you're too old, Liam. Sorry.
I want to see his dungeon. No, but sorry. Yeah.
Oh, somebody you woken somebody.
I'm woken the beast here. No, but this person. Here we go.
I like to photobomb.
That's a chicken photobomb for this morning.
That's for the rabbi.
But no, this person, and what this person did was to remind everybody he was still alive, and also to make his contribution to people trying to get through this time, and for theater lovers to get through this time, is he actually made a little video of himself playing his most famous song at 92, right? And I was like, oh, God, he's alive, he's well, and he obviously wants to get his message out. Let's get him on the show.
But
No.
Can I tell you the difference? There's a difference between the message you control and the message that other people
Sure.
of you.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't want other people to control you or edit you. You want to be in control of your message.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, how rough would it be for him to talk to Rabbi Sol for half an hour?
It might kill him.
COVID didn't get him, but
I don't want to say anything, but some people find Rabbi Sol rather xenophobic, racist, and offensive.
No.
So if that gentleman appears with Rabbi Sol, here's the racism and the Zionism and the homophobia, the phobia.
How are you conflating racism and Zionism?
Well, all of the stuff.
Don't you dare do that.
If all those things come together, that gentleman, if he is, he might be so offended he might die. People die of a broken heart. It might kill him.
It might kill him, but he's 92. He's ready to die anyway.
No, he's got at least 10, 15 years. I think 103 at least.
Yeah, well, I would have, had he come on the show, I would have wished him 103, 120 years.
Let's be honest, no, you wouldn't.
No, but since he didn't come on the show, give him a week.
No, but he also might come on still. You don't know.
No, he's not gonna.
How do you know?
Because I went through his people.
There's other people you can go to. There's other people.
But what makes me even madder is that at least this person, this old sakrachen and this old crank, he decided, whatever, for whatever reasons, or the people around him decided, no. But at least within a day, I knew he was not going to be. Other people that I've reached on.
Oh, Warhol joined Baba.
Oh, hey, Warhol, how are you?
Oh,
Other people that I've been trying to reach, I'll send a message. Sometimes I'll send a message and an email because I'll have both contact. Ozone. Like, I don't exist. I will literally type a message and see that they are on Facebook active now, because it'll tell you, active
so
now.
hostile.
And then I'll send it. All they have to say is, sorry, not interested. I'll think about it. Not this week. Maybe, maybe in July or something. But just to send and not even give me the courtesy of an acknowledgement. That just. If you want to make me unbelievably mad, I said this last week, there's two things you can do. You can either ignore me or you can waste my time. Nothing makes me angrier, nothing makes me more frustrated than the two, because I'm not invisible. Certainly I'm not invisible. But if you grow up feeling on some level that you're weird and strange and invisible, and then you learn that you're not, and then you get some level of recognition and power. You get on stage and you have people looking at you. You write for places and people respond and they're reading your stuff and you're getting paid for your and so forth. And then there's still folks who don't think that it's important enough to give you to take 10 seconds out of their life and say no thank you, or to pull you out of the passing throng just to acknowledge and be grateful that you were asked. Well, that's just. How did I get on this JAG though again? What was it about? Why did I get on the guest thing? Because I'm really delighted and thrilled that Stuart Zagnit is going to be with us in the Daverhood. He said yes. He sure said. He said yes immediately.
Did he say it in Pikachu language or people language?
He did it in human Jew language, which is the language that Rabbi Sol speaks, which is great because Rabbi Sol is going to be doing the interview with Stuart Zagnit just about a half hour from now on Dave's Gone By. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. And I've talked about everything that's going to be on the show already. What else do I want to mention? There's been one silver lining in all this COVID stuff. And all the unfortunateness and all the boredom I'm not bored, but for all the people who are bored and don't have enough to do, for all the people who are just trapped in situations where they might be with abusive spouses and can't leave, or they might be with families that are driving them crazy, can't go anywhere. They're worried about people that they know in nursing homes and can't visit them, they can't shop, can't do it, etc. People having a hard time, people not finding some of the provisions that they needed, especially early on. Young folks were hoarding. All of that, negative. But something positive? Plastic bags are back.
There you go.
Did it occur to anybody, and I'm half joking, but did it occur to anybody that this whole COVID thing started just around the time when it became law, certainly in New York and California as well, I believe, probably some other states, to stop using plastic bags because it's bad for the environment. It goes in the oceans. It becomes a big underwater plasberg. Seagulls get caught in it, or some fish suffocate. Manatees, they go shopping with it. It's on their little flipper. Everything they buy, the bag just slides off the flipper. They can't get it. No, it's I'm talking about plastic bags.
Oh,
so they're saying bags bad. Bloomberg's, now De Blasio carrying it forward. Don't use plastic bags when you go shop. So what happens? What happens for weeks leading up to now? People start using their own bags. No, not paper bags, because you have to pay for paper bags in the supermarket. People start reusing the bags that they have. Now think about it. These are you're bringing your own 2 or 3 bags, carrying bags, to fill with groceries back and forth from the supermarket. And these are reusable, okay? Which means you bring it in, you fill it with your crap, before COVID, you give it to the checkout person at the supermarket, the grocery. They're taking the stuff, they're putting their hands in. And of course, when you're filling a bag, you're not filling it up here, right? So you're leaning over into the bag to put the goods and the groceries and the toilet paper and the bounty paper towels and everything in there. You're breathing into the bag. Your almost microscopic saliva particles are falling into this, not only yours, but of course the checkout girl or guy who's filling the bag. And then you take that bag, you put it in your car, and then you empty it in the house, on the kitchen counter, in the thing. And now you're pulling stuff out of the bag, right? And stuff is slopped in there, and then, you know, the stuff that was frozen might have leaked a little and defrosted a little bit. So now you've got the bag, you're not gonna throw the bag away, perfectly good bag, you're supposed to reuse it. Okay, so now the bag, God knows, you might put it on the living room floor for a bit, or the couch, which means now the family dog and the family cat is gonna rustle around in it. The baby's a walking pile of germs. Little children, they're gonna play with, put the bag over there. Don't put the bag over there. Don't. And now all this saliva, it's like an ocean of spittle, is swimming around in this bag. And what are you gonna do with this bag? 4 days later, you go back to the supermarket. And what you're bringing the bag. Oh, this is my reusable bag. I'm helping the environment. I'm doing exactly what the mayor and the governor says. I'm going to save the planet by reusing it. And now you bring this bag back into the supermarket. Another checkout person, right, is putting stuff in it where the spittle was, and your spittle, and boom, and maybe you reuse this bag 10 times. It's been in and out of your car, in and out of your garage, your house, right? And people are worried about contact tracing. Right. Everybody's afraid. There's a local library around here where they're saying one of the things that they'll do most likely when the library starts just getting people back in, even the staff back in, is when people return books, they're not going to put the books away. I mean, they're going to have the books sit on carts for 72 hours, untouched, not back on the chair. Leave them there so that anything that might be on those books, any residual humanness of the touching, of the, especially children's books, because children will do everything to a book besides read it. So leave them alone, 72 hours, don't touch, because there could possibly be a little bit of a COVID infectious germ on the cover of the book. Well, nobody was doing that in January with grocery bags. They were just going in, bags. So this past week, I went to our local supermarket and I brought some bags, but I bought more stuff than I thought I was going to. I didn't have enough bags. And the young lady said, "Oh, you want more plastic?" I'm like, I felt like I was being offered marijuana in a non-Colorado kind of state. I thought, bags, plastic bags. Does the governor know, right? I thought there's something illegal is going on. And they're saying, while this is going on, we don't want people using their own bags over and over. If you bring a bag, pack it. I'm not going to touch it, right? They're not supposed to. They're all wearing gloves. They all have these plastic dividers in front of where the checkout thing is. And so they're not allowed to touch the bag. You got to pack your own stuff. And if you want more stuff, no, we're not paying attention to the plastic bag ban at the moment. You want plastic bags? You go ahead. And I went ahead. Because plastic bags are wonderful. They're better than paper bags, which always tear on me. The handles are never strong enough. Something spills in a paper bag on the bottom. Now you've got mushy paper on that it's going to fall through. I'm not saying plastic bags are so well made that sometimes those handles don't pull and tear. I've had things drop too. But they're still better in a way. And I put it to the scientists and the politicians together on this, where I say, it's like, you want us to not use plastic bags anymore. You want us to not use reusable bags either anymore. Give us a viable, workable alternative, right? It's sort of like the straw ban, the plastic straw ban.
Very
that they've got in New York and I guess elsewhere too, where they're trying to, straws are bad for the environment. They get stuck in the coral reefs and poke fish's eyes out. I don't know, but straws are supposedly bad.
What?
Well, what's so bad about plastic straws? And they're not biodegradable.
Who pokes fish's eyes out? What are you
I
talking about?
don't know what the hell I'm doing.
I
No,
don't
but,
think why would it poke out a fish's eye?
well, what else would it do with a fish where it's so,
They would eat it. It would get stuck in their tummies and kill them.
so it gets stuck in fish's tum-tums. So they and it does bad things to them. It's bad. It's bad. So fine. First, it's like they always put the cart before the horse. If you want us not to use plastic straws, design a straw with biodegradable plastic. It is 2020. They should have the technology to create some kind of polymer that degrades if you bury it for a couple of years. That doesn't last for 200 years. That safely turns into compost or what have you. They should be able to do this. Instead, they say, well, we're going to ban the straws, and you need an alternative too, because people, sometimes it's hard for them to drink without a straw, and kids love straws, they're fun. What do we do? And they very quickly drummed up these paper straws. Have you ever drunk from a paper straw?
You know, they do mush together.
It's not even that. Mushing is that too. But I know, if you're drinking something, what's happening? You're probably thirsty. And if you're thirsty, see, I think of these things.
You're probably thirsty. David.
Yeah.
Wow, you're deep today, honey.
I am. This is some deep stuff.
Yeah.
Well, here's the deal.
What happens if you're hungry? If you eat something, you're probably...
If you eat something, you might be out. But here's the deal. If you're thirsty, that means it's possible that your mouth is kind of dry, right? You want to wet your whistle, your gullet.
Yeah.
So mouth's a little dry, which means your lips are kind of dry.
Okay.
You put your lips against a paper straw. Have you ever done this? For all the people who have gone to restaurants in New York and places, immediately the straw sticks right to your lips. And now it actually literally hurts to pull the straw away from your lip. Especially if your lips are real dry or cracked a little bit. And now it's like, you feel like you could give yourself a canker sore by sucking on a paper straw. And now you gotta lick your lips and make sure, don't get stuck again every time you use this friggin' straw. This is true. I'm not imagining this. I have done this a couple of times with paper straws. I'm always, man. So I'll go, a straw, looks like a straw. Fine, let me use it. And it's annoying to drink from because you have to keep your bottom lip and your upper lip moist when you're doing it. Yes, this is my favorite bottled wine. But so it's like, you want to ban straws, go right ahead. But give us a straw made of an alternative material that is just as good or better. And that is completely fine. If you want to ban plastic bags, and you don't want us to keep reusing the same bag, which I actually do not like. I like using a new bag. Then design a biodegradable bag that is cheap and that, hey, we use it. If it tears, got to throw it out. Doesn't matter. It's going to go into landfill. And when it landfills, it's going to turn into beautiful stuff that will make flowers grow and won't hurt the environment. Why is that so hard? Why is that not a possible thing? If you're going to, it's like when compact discs came in over cassettes and 8-track tapes. It was a thing. It was sort of like, wow, this is a compact discs have some limitations in terms of audio quality if you're an audiophile, but honestly, they were miles better than records, tapes, and certainly 8-track tapes. So there was this thing. It was they didn't say, we're eliminating cassettes because they use too much plastic, they're bad for the environment, the ferrous oxide goes into the air and gives people cancer, and then, go back to 78s and put your music on cylinders. No, it was kind of like, cassettes have these limitations, let's design something better and smaller and more convenient and better sound and doesn't skip. sometimes. And here it is. And everybody grabbing it. They went, okay. It took Luddites like me a bit of time to move from the record generation to the CD generation, but eventually I saw the logic in it. I said, oh, like, this is really so much better. Right? And now compact discs are being phased out. Why? Because I can go on a computer, pay $10 a month to Spotify, and hear literally 10 million songs at my fingertips, right? In quality that's perfectly fine for my ears, even if it's an MP3. And now it's like, oh, no compact discs anymore? That's all right, because I can carry this little thing device around and have everything a compact disc gave me and 10 million things. That's the good evolution. That's the way it's supposed to go. Not records, oh, you have to listen to music some other way. We haven't really thought of a good way yet. If you what you can do is hire a band on wheels to walk around with you whenever you want music, until we invent something that's a better way in between. Anywho, it's 9:45 Eastern Time here in the Daverhood on Dave's Gone By. We have our we have our guest waiting. I wish I could, maybe we can bring him in, because I don't want him to be.
Yeah, why don't you start early?
Yeah, and then because we have so much else to do. We've got Inside Broadway, Greeley Crimes and Old Times, our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, our Wretched Pen of Destiny, our Today Yesterday quiz. Oh my goodness, so much fun to do on this program. The Dave's Gone By 748th episode of the show.
A lot of people go into Zoom early to make sure they can get in.
No, I think it's fantastic that he's there early.
Maybe it's not him, maybe it's his character.
Oh, that could be. But if I admit, does that mean he goes on the air? Yeah. So what I'm gonna
maybe
do?
He also was incensed by, maybe he has a thing with paper and plastic straws. It might not it affects people very deeply.
I'm a little worried if he's, because he expects to be on at 10 o'clock. I don't want to put him on if he's like in his underwear.
You could put him on, and then it could just take off his video. You could take off his video just so it's just see his name.
I can do that.
Yeah, I'll show you. Yeah.
Well, but then would the conversation start, or I want to get him on when he's. So tell you what.
Where's your phone?
Where's my phone? It's right there. But
that's my phone.
That's your phone. Oh dear. I don't know where my telephone. And you know what? We got 10 minutes. He can hang for like 8 minutes, and then we'll bring Rabbi Sol Solomon in for, because I, just in case. I want to suddenly admit him, and they're like, so.
Well, also Zoom updated, so maybe he wants to make sure he can,
Well, if you were able to, is he able to listen to me now?
Yeah.
Great.
If he's on Facebook or Zoom, he'll hear you on Zoom. He'll hear you talking.
Excellent. So if you're hearing me talking on Zoom, Rabbi Sol will be doing the interview with Stuart Zagnit. I assume that was Stuart Zagnit, who was waiting to get on.
I will write.
And he's all set for 10 o'clock. I'm thrilled that you're here early, and we're going to be thrilled to get you on the show. So let's take 10 minutes in between. Not a lot of time, is it? Why don't we do a quick Greeley Crimes and Old Times?
Stuart, okay.
Yeah, Stuart Zagnit.
See you in the...
Joyce is writing to him. By the way, while she's doing that, let me remind you.
Everybody, and we'll bring you on at
10 o'clock with Rabbi Sol. davesgoneby.com is the website for this program. I mean, I know you're all watching me. Welcome on Facebook. But if you miss an episode, if you want to go back and watch any one of our 747 previous episodes, you can see them all for free at davesgoneby.com. We've been going into all these archives, making sure that they work, making sure that the interviews work. So it's been a slow process, but we're getting new photographs. It's been great, and we're about halfway through, which is wonderful. So check out the website, davesgoneby.com, for history of the show, photographs of the show, and of course, all these audio archives that you can either stream or download, your preference. And let's do that. So let's do a quick Greeley Crimes and Old Times, shall we?
Okay.
This is a segment that we've been doing for a few years now, because Joyce and I lived in northern Colorado, particularly in a town called Greeley, Colorado, that is known for having tattoo parlors and the JBS meatpacking plant that is ground zero for COVID. Go Greeley! So, the newspaper there is the Greeley Tribune. Here's a classic photo from the front page of the Greeley Tribune. I show this every week. It's, remember all the ways that a tree can kill you. Yeah. They also have a column, marvelous column every week called Cop Log, which are phone calls that come into the Greeley and Weld County Police Department from people who need help and more help than they probably think they need. The funniest ones are compiled, it's public record, by the folks at the Tribune. So we do them every week in a segment called Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Greeley Crimes and Old Times is the name of the segment. So there's no old times. We explain this every week that because the Tribune has furloughed on some level a lot of its non-staff or its part-time writers, the guy, our friend Mike Peters, who writes the other column that's Greeley 100 years ago, they haven't updated that column in a month because he hasn't been writing for them. But they're still doing Cop Log, and I'm very happy about that. Trevor Reed is the guy who's putting these together. These are actual phone calls that came into the Greeley Weld County Police Department. Are you ready, babe? Oh. Everything okay there on Facebook? Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. Greeley Crimes and Old Times. And do you have your noise? We do. This is important. Because we have a caller. At corporate offices on 17th Avenue reported a homeless man.
That's corporate offices.
Reported.
Yes.
How is this possible? A homeless man kept flying a drone over company property, frightening employees.
You know what? Maybe people spend their stimulus checks in different ways. I would have got room and board, but
yeah,
it probably was an activist.
Oh, I guess, I don't know. Or how do they know they were homeless and had a drone? Yeah. I keep my food in one garbage can. I keep my surveillance equipment.
That's a lot of
yeah.
That's a lot of supposition. Those are a lot of things. I mean,
you know, police also responded to 21st Street. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, sure. Because on 21st Street, apparently.
Oh, sorry.
Well, a caller reporting a man wearing one shoe and blasting music from a Buick. Weird noises today. Another caller reported seeing the same man, possibly, snort a line of cocaine and yell at his car.
Well, you know what? I don't blame him.
Yeah, I know. So he's snorting coke, he's blasting music, he's wearing one shoe, and then he's yelling at his car. That's.
Hey, listen, you know, some people react to COVID in very different ways.
They certainly do. Police also responded to a suspicious person. Ooh. Walking around a fast food taco establishment.
Oh, God.
What do you think the police believe? This man, suspicious man, was walking around a fast food taco establishment. Police believe what?
He wanted a taco.
Police believe he may have been looking for tacos.
I mean, come on.
It's slow news week.
Not for nothing, but.
I want to make sure we have time for this, though. So on our Greeley Crimes and Old Times segment, we make time to go elsewhere, away from Greeley, Colorado, for one story, one weird story in the news. And I wanted to share this one. Life was already, this is coming to report a story in the LA Times, all about Singapore. Life was already hard scrabble for the 7 river otters known as the Zook family. Prime land next to Singapore's sparkling waterways brimming with fish have been seized by otter clans, forcing the hapless group to wander the city-state each day for food and shelter. But few noticed that this was happening until the coronavirus shutdown. With streets nearly empty, the Zook otter family, named after a local nightclub, appeared in unexpected places, splashing in a luxury condominium pool. I mean, remember, it's not that this story is so funny, but just imagine these adorable otters, like, taking over the city. They were flopping around a formerly teeming shopping center and cutting through the lobby of a children's hospital.
That's a problem.
If I were a child, that would be the happiest day in the hospital for
You
me.
know what? I don't think so.
What, to see a bunch of otters go,
Yeah, but it would be scary as a kid, I would think.
well, hey, who helps children more than Easter seals? It's a little joke there, I'm sorry. Okay, but it all seemed harmless and unbelievably cute, if you ask me. But calls for crackdown began when the Zooks raided a private pond stocked with expensive ornamental fish at a spa owned by a famous actress.
Oh, I remember this.
The otters killed all the fishes in the pond, Jazreel Lowe posted on Facebook with a sad-faced emoji. Somebody else wrote, "Darn otters! They've got to pay for it."
Uh-oh.
Within days, radio shows and social media called for culling the slippery animals. A widely shared letter published in the local Times recommended deterring otters with air horns and rubber bullets.
You know what? Like,
Now, again, just imagine the scene if this happened. If you have people who've been pent up with COVID, they get to go out, and what are they doing? They're just going all around the city chasing otters.
and this is the problem. Like,
Yeah.
do not get people do not need to chase otters around the city. Like they're in a children's hospital. This is not like extermination of otters. Like, this is not good.
But all of Singapore is going to look like a scene out of the Scooby-Doo thing, where they're going from one door to the other and running through the hallway, honking air horns like otters. Yeah.
That's unacceptable.
Oh my God. Wild boars aren't encouraged to enter urban areas. Neither should otters, just because they look cute.
Otters are rodents, right?
Rogan, I think they are. Rogan aquaculture product salesman, or no, I think they're mammals, aren't they? I think they might be mammals. Ever since 2014, when they started appearing in waterfront Marina Bay, otters have been treated like celebrities
Come on.
in metropolitan Singapore. When asked to vote for a mascot to represent Singapore in its National Day festivities back in 2016, citizens overwhelmingly chose the otters.
You're gotta be kidding me. What's wrong with these people?
And something about the otter's lifestyle provokes envy among Singapore's
they're-
high-achieving, high-strung
'Cause
society.
They're lazy,
Yeah.
right? They kind of float around, you know.
Said one financial manager, quote, "They are exactly who we want to be. They spend their time with family. They like to swim, eat good food, and do a little sunbathing."
That is a good life. Yeah.
However, Singapore's otters are unusually social. They swim by rowboats, roll in the grass next to tourists, and they take dips in reservoirs whose banks double as jogging paths.
That's dangerous, though. God forbid they bite somebody. We saw
Well,
that Lion King,
the Tiger King, yeah.
hit somebody, the one cub or something, right?
Philip Johns, an academic, wrote, "We have the best otter watching conditions in the world." And he was so taken by these otters that he abandoned notions of studying colugos. Look that one up. Colugos are a nocturnal mammal, a cross between a bat and a lemur. You got to see them. They're like creepy as hell because they got like all this bat membrane, but their faces have these great big eyes and they're so cute. It's the weirdest thing. Otters, however, are like wolves. They're like coyotes in water. And they were almost extinct in Singapore until a massive river cleanup in the 1980s. Soon, the fish came back and the otters came back with a vengeance. So many that the otters have been fighting for territory.
That's like rival otter gang.
And at first, Singaporeans were horrified that the furry creatures were capable of such ferocious fighting.
No, they have big buck teeth.
Yeah, but otters are mean, man. It's a cacophony of squeals and horrible biting. Sounds like Real Housewives of Los Angeles. People tried to break up squabbles with umbrellas.
Honey, get the umbrella.
This story is filled with so much wonderful imagery. Yes, the air horn and the bullet thing is imaginary, but this was real. People would go into horrible otter fights with umbrellas. It's like trying to not kill the otters, but just whack them. Oh, God.
Why don't they just get a hose?
I don't know if that would, I mean, it would have to be like a big fire hose kind of thing. Because they like water, you know.
They do.
Yeah. Others are just calling for better management of the otter population. Because for all the angry Facebook postings, most Singaporeans like the otters. After all, most folks live in public housing, and they're not famous stars with expensive spas and fish ponds. Everyone's worried that with the corona lockdown easing up, the Zook family otters will face more people and more cars and more traffic, which means they might face extinction again, one way or the other.
Let me see if they have an otter thing I can.
Oh, please. One way or the otter. I think that's a good way to end the segment, don't you? That was Greeley Crimes and Old Times. Oh, I had the wrong thing. Here we go. Greeley Crimes and Old Times.
Mr. Horace Greeley was no fool. I'm sure that you'll agree with me that Greeley was no fool.
But he is getting at his death. Mr. Greeley was no fool.
Yippee-yi, 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 yi-yi, yippee, yippee, yippee.
You're watching the 748th edition of the long-running radio show podcast-based bookio programmio of the stream Dave's Gone By. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. That's my darling and adorable wife, Joyce. Polka Thing is here because Polka Thing is very, very excited about the guest we have coming on in a minute or so. His name is Stuart Zagnit. He is a Broadway actor, a national tour theatrical actor, as well as
David, Lisa and Iris gave you some laughing and some thumbs up.
Laughing and thumbs up right back at you, folks. So very excited that Stuart Zagnit is going to be with us momentarily, talking, alas, not to me, but the one, the only, the Jewish Rabbi Sol Solomon, who is the founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. So he's very excited. You know, he loves theater people. He loves, doesn't really love animation so much, but yeah, he'll go there as well. Very excited. We're going to play a little bit, actually, of Stuart Zagnit singing a song or a parody song of a show tune from a show called The Life that was all about prostitutes and drug dealers. It was on Broadway. It had some good songs in it, like this one, although they're kind of, you know, Stuart Zagnit and Andy Richardson are doing a duet on this. It's called, based on the oldest profession, the Old Z profession. And Rabbi Sol and Stuart Zagnit will be right there.
I'm worn out. I'm weary. I ain't no machine. My head hurts. My feet hurts. And everything in between. I'm getting too old for the old Z profession. I'm getting too tired and too slow. I'm getting too old for the short PT sessions. I need a complete chiropro. I'm getting too old to climb in those towers a half dozen times every night. I'm getting too old to take classes for hours and do homework backstage while they fight. I've had it with Grace and his smelly old stogies and all those boys season the day. It's been working with all you old fogies. I wish you would just go away. When I was 16, it was fun doing flips. The money was good. Now you're stuck playing crips. Falls from the truth. I've got underwear older than
I've got underwear older than Moses, ladies and gentlemen. This is your old pal, Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder, spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches, and I am thrilled and delighted to be talking to a Jewish person. I see him. I don't know if he can hear me. Well, he seems to be smiling, so maybe. Yes.
I can hear. Can you hear me?
I hear you, and I can see the look of disgust on your face when you realize we were actually talking to him. But,
not at all.
By the way, his name is not iPad 77. Just so you know, his name is Stuart Zagnit. He has been a longtime actor. He was in the Broadway cast of Seussical. He is going to, or still is in, technically, the upcoming revival of Caroline or Change, which is a musical by Tony Kushner and Janine Tesori. He was on tour in Wicked and Crazy for You. You also know his, look, he's got his resume. Go ahead. Did you show?
Just showing my name for people to get the spelling right.
He is Stuart Zagnit. But check this out. I'm sure you've heard him in Pokemon 3, not to mention Viva Pinata. He played Zolf in The Players. I thought that was Ray Fiennes was doing that, but no. And he played Kosho, of course, in Grappler Baki, The Ultimate Fighter. Somebody had to. And he was, I didn't know this, he was the last Seymour in the original off-Broadway Little Shop of Horrors. And he was in a wonderful production, where I'm going to talk about this, many years ago at the Public Theater of a Jew play called the Dybbuk. It was beautiful, actually a beautiful show over there. And he has played numerous rabbis. I don't know what that's like. But ladies and gentlemen, won't you please welcome to the Daverhood, Stuart Zagnit. Shalom, Stuart.
Shalom.
Now,
good to see you.
Good to see you too. First of all, do you prefer Stuart or Stu?
I actually prefer Stuart. I have a couple of close people who I give them a pass to do variations, but sometimes the nicknames. The only time I had a childhood friend, my friend Bruce Ekman, who I grew up with, and he was Brucey and I was Stewie. He's the only person I let him call me Stewie. And then when I did Newsies, it was the first time there was another Stuart in the cast, Stuart Marland, and I got so tired of someone saying Stuart, me turning, and they weren't talking to me, so I made up my own nickname. Since my last name starts with a Z, I became Stuzy. And everybody in the company called me Stuzy, and it really stuck. So I said, I invented a nickname for myself, and it really worked. So
may I call you Stuzy? I love it because we're Newsies. It's Stuzy, may I?
Stuzy the Newsy, that's right.
I'll give you one other option, however. What is your Hebrew name?
Shlomo. Shlomo Avram.
Shlomo Avram Zagnit.
Because I'm Stuart Allen. My mother, gave me Allen. It's spelled A-L-L-E-N, which is usually a last name spelling.
Right.
But I love it. It's just like, it's like Edgar Allan Poe, Stuart Allen Zagnit.
And let me ask, what dead Jews were you named after? Because they always
that's a good question. My father was Alvin, so I guess the Avram was that. He was living at the time. And the Shlomo, who would the Shlomo be? I don't know who the Shlomo was, because my grandfather was Morris, so it wasn't after him. That's a very good. You came up with a question I can't answer, so
could have been your grandma or your mom and dad were watching sports on TV, and they invented the slow motion, and said, "Oh, there we go, slow-mo. That's what we'll call him."
Slow-mo Zagnit, yes. That's
Now, speaking of names, and I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but thank you so much. Did you take? Do you hate the Hershey Company? Because you must have put up with so much crap when you were a kid. Whenever Zagnut. I gotta drink this down.
Not only was it the bane of my existence, but I'd have to say Zagnit, not like the candy bar, and I figured out why Zagnut was in business all those years, because if you went to a vending machine and all the other candy bars were sold out, the only candy bar left in the machine was a Zagnut. It was one of the driest, most brittle things, but it was there because they got it by, if everything else, all the popular ones were, they go, I really need a candy bar, and they eat it, so.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's the most disgusting thing, other than that one that they used to make with honey. Remember that? They used to have a candy bar that was all honey. It was big old honey, is what it was.
Bit of honey, yes.
I'm sorry, that was a big of shice if you ever had to eat that thing. But
I call those ones that pull out all the dental work, so I avoid them. So, you know.
When you were in school, when you were a child, did children torture you and call you Zagnut or something like that, or did you not mind?
Zigzag,
Yeah.
you know, Dragnet, any version of that, you know. But there's there's more Zagnits now because my relatives have had families, and so the Zagnit clan is sort of expanding.
Alabama.
Yes, so you know.
You have a wife and you have kids, I believe.
I have one son, Sam, who's 23 years old. He just graduated from Yale School of Music grad school. He's a classical bassist who we are enormously proud of, and my wife is multi-hyphenate, which I'll tell you later. She's a songwriter, she's a teacher, she's an author. She has 2 best-selling children's books. One is Welcome to Jazz, which she's doing a book event today on Facebook through her Workman Press, and her previous book, Welcome to the Symphony. And what's great about these books is they have these sound panels, so the kids can push the buttons and they can hear the instruments, they can hear Beethoven's Fifth, they can hear When the Saints Go Marching In, and both of these books are best-selling books on Workman. Needless to say, I'm proud of her too, because
Funny how you're so proud of her, and yet you have not mentioned her name. I saw Carolyn on there somewhere. What's her name?
Carolyn Sloan, Sloan. She uses her own name, which is perfectly fine. And
now wait, if her name is Carolyn Sloan, forgive me for asking this as well, but she sounds like she was not initially a Jewess. Is this correct?
Wrong.
Tell me.
Her lineage is more Sephardic, and Eastern European, like German, but their family went from Bulgaria. They went from Portugal, from Spain to Bulgaria. They've been all over the place. So
what about you're Ashkenaz? I would say you're German, Russian.
I'm a mixed breed. I'm a little Litvak, a little Galiciana there, and it was considered a mixed marriage when my parents got together. There was a big outrage in the family, but I think it worked out. Oh, okay.
How long have you been married? How long have you been together?
We got married in 1991. We met in 89, I think it was.
Wow.
I met her, and within 6 weeks of meeting her, I went on the national tour of Into the Woods. And she goes, well, that was nice. I'll probably never hear from him again. P.S. I called her every night after the shows. And then since I was with the tour for a while, we planned visits. She'd come meet me on the road. And when I got off the tour, we moved in together, and the rest is history. So there we are.
You lived in sin? Oi, don't, I'll give a blessing.
I know it's shocking. It's just shocking.
So this is a fair question, though. I mean, you are a performer, and you've been on Broadway, but you've also done national tours, which just goes from city to city to city.
Sure have.
Then you've had to have not just a nice a relationship, but a marriage and raising a child. How is that when you can't be there for 3 months at a time or something like that?
I can't lie. It's a very challenging situation. And when our son Sam was born, I really made a concerted effort not to go on the road. So during his early years, and I was lucky because he was literally not a little more than a newborn. He was a toddler, and I was on Broadway with Wild Party, and then right after Wild Party into Seussical on Broadway. So he basically grew up backstage. I mean, there was a time when a babysitter didn't show up, and I brought him to what's now the August Wilson Theater. It was then the Virginia Theater. We were rehearsing Wild Party, and the chorus girls were like all taking turns watching him, and they all thought he was adorable. And I have to say, it really was like a life-saving situation. And the management was so understanding. George Wolf, it's like, it's not a big deal. Do what you have to do.
Well,
And
because I have very few, no, I actually have many enemies, but very few enemies on this actual show. One of whom is now, I know you had the baby backstage. Did Mandy Patinkin ever smack him?
No, he smacked the kid's father. So he made up for it. He took it out on pretty much everybody else. So,
are there any crazy Mandy stories? Because Mandy hung up on me 10 seconds into an interview. Years, never forgiven the son of a bitch. So, I know you might have to work with him again. Maybe you have no bad stories, but tell me a bad Mandy Patinkin story.
There are numerous things which I don't want to really go into in this forum, but call me and we can talk. All right.
Well, tell me then a nice, funny, either Toni Collette or Eartha Kitt story, because they were both in that show.
My God, Toni Collette. As I said to people, I would walk over hot coals for that woman. She is certainly one of the most talented and one of the most collegial and giving people. So she was totally one of the group, and I loved watching her work. She was fun to be around. Somewhere I have a great picture of me and Norm Lewis at a party, just cutting up and being silly. It was a wonderful experience working with her. And Eartha Kitt, an icon of the theater. This is a memory that I have of her. She was exceedingly generous. Adam Grouper and I were the two producers. We were Gold and Goldberg in the show. And being Eartha Kitt, she got a lot of offers. They wanted her to perform on the Weekend Today show. Rosie O'Donnell wanted her to perform on her show. And she said, fine, but the number that she was doing was the number that she did on stage to impress Adam and I. And she'd say to them, that's fine, I'm coming on, but you have to bring these two gentlemen have to be on stage with me. And even though we mostly stood there and just reacted, she generously, and so we got paid for those appearances. She could have just gone and done them herself. And I thought, she's got a good heart, and she looked out for us. And when we rehearsed at the Public Theater, because they were the producers before we moved to Broadway to the theater to perform. So we were doing various rehearsals in one studio, and the women were doing a dance kind of thing. So at the end of the women's dance rehearsal, they wanted us all to meet in their room. So I come in, and the dance rehearsal has just broken up, and there's this very shapely, wonderfully attractive woman on her stomach, and she's kind of stretching out, and I'm going, boy, she looks great. And she rolled over, and it was Eartha. And I realized I had just like kind of cruised Eartha Kitt.
Who was in her 70s at that point. So yeah.
She looked fantastic. She had great discipline, and watching her go from rehearsal to turning it on in front of an audience, and the audience, when she did her numbers, they did not want to give it up. They just would keep going and keep going and keep going. And it was a wonder to watch somebody at the top of her game like that doing what she does. Now
you brought another show, almost incidentally there, another show that you did. You were in the original cast of Seussical.
Seussical. I was the mayor of Who-Ville, yes.
The mayor of Who-Ville. One of the few non-Jewish parts who've ever, although he could have been. Could have been the mayor of Who-Ville. It's possible. But here's the deal. Let me talk about that show a little bit, because it's become a very, very popular show since its Broadway incarnation. It's
absolutely.
School does it. Every community. On Broadway, it had its issues. What was it like being in the midst of a show that could have been a hit, wasn't quite, and then there was all this turbulence backstage, and you mentioned Rosie O'Donnell before. So What was it like being? Did you absent yourself from all of that? Did you just shut yourself off? Did you not read the press? Or
Well, I mean,
yeah,
I'll be frank about this. That
you're not Frank. You're
it was a double whammy, because Wild Party, although they were enormously different shows, had an audience. Wild Party is a show that could only have existed, a mature, dark, very introspective, a show that had very adult themes. New York could have supported that. New York, the audiences I know did, because they would come back again and again. It was like that train, that car wreck, the smash up on the side, and you don't want to look at it, but you have to look at it. You know, it just had that kind of magnetism. Seussical was the ultimate family show. The kids loved it. Their parents loved it. The grandparents loved it. The only people who didn't love it were the New York Times. I don't want to mention any names, Ben Brantley, but in both cases, here's an example. Ben Brantley said to the audience, and in his blurb, he as much reviewed the backstory, all the rumors and things that weren't part of the show. In his review, if you read the review, it's mostly steeped in that. I don't think he reviewed the show that we performed for him that night. And then the blurb ran week after week saying, oh, this is not worth your time, it's not worth your money. So he single-handedly helped destroy that show. And then when they remounted it off Broadway and did sort of a revamped version, he actually, in the rave review of that version, said, the much maligned Seussical. And I said, well, you were the one that was maligning it. So what's the sense of that? I to this day, it's the most puzzling thing that he so wanted to kill it on Broadway, and then he wound up resurrecting it off Broadway. So,
but were you there for the whole run? Were you there from, because they took out the lead guy, the brilliant David Shiner, if you remember him from Full Moon.
Absolutely. I got to be very, very friendly and close to him. And look, no one forced anybody to hire David Shiner. They knew exactly what David had done. And his whole career, he had been a silent mime entertainer. And here they were asking him to sing and dance and do things. And I'm saying, so why is anybody surprised? He's doing everything that you've asked him to do. He didn't have a problem. They sort of forced a little vacation on him. I will say, I loved working with Rosie. When they brought Rosie in, she respected the play. She respected us. When she opened, she gave us all opening night presents for her opening, which was so generous. There were a number of same-sex couples in our company that were looking to adopt, and she facilitated those adoptions. This woman has a really big heart, and she's generous of spirit. And so it was not our choice, but when she came in, you know, she made herself part of the show, and we loved her for it, you know. And we were lucky to have Kathy Rigby too, who she just threw herself into it. She's such a force and had such amazing energy. So we were a family. I think we really were a family, and it was kind of devastating that the show was treated as poorly as it did. And I am glad it has had a life, you know, past Broadway. It deserved it. Working for Lynn and Steve, I was in their first off-Broadway musical, which was Lucky Stiff. And I've had nothing but the highest regard for them. They are just an amazing, they're so closely meshed with their artistic vision. And I love what they do. So the chance I got to work with them in their first show, I got to work with them in Seussical. P.S. I'd love to work with them again. They're wonderful people. So, you can always have a good experience in the middle of a quote, you know, bad experience. So.
Yeah. Well, speaking of good experience in the middle of a bad experience, you were supposed to be on Broadway right now doing
right.
of Caroline or Change, a very, very acclaimed, well-respected musical with a book by Tony Kushner, a score. Who did the lyrics? Was it Janine Tesori?
Tony also did the lyrics.
Okay.
And Janine set all of his lyrics and the dialogue, because you have to realize this show is pretty much sung through. So the dialogue is mostly done in lyrically, and there are some spoken words, but they tell that story, and this is the second time because Tony Kushner wrote the adaptation of a Dybbuk that I did at the Public. So this is a very sweet reunion too, with both. I don't think I had done a Janine show before, but have been a big fan of hers, and we've known each other socially. So, and I have to say, the people at the Roundabout, God bless them. There are so many producers that have said, the pandemic hit, we're closing up shop. They said from the get-go, we are not closing this show. So, they obviously did have to stop paying us because the show was not in production, but they have reiterated this time that the show is going up in the fall, and as soon as we have the all clear to come back, we are going back to work. The set is on stage. All of our stuff is in the dressing rooms. Basically, we're just on pause right now. And
we'll be probably, with all due respect, probably till like February, probably.
Whatever it'll be, and they're committed, and our star, Sharon Clark, has committed to come back to it from London. Our director, Michael Longhurst, is also coming back. So basically the team, we're all waiting this out, and we're looking forward to having a glorious reopening, the opening we almost had.
Well, it would be really the institutional theaters who could bring things back easier than the commercial producers, because institutions, they've got subscribers, and they also have grants, and they also have all this money in place, whereas some of the commercial things, it's like, well, I got to start from scratch, and I don't have, government money coming to me. I don't have all the base of things that Second Stage or Roundabout or Manhattan Theater Club. Right. So whom we can at least rely on will come back in January, February, rather than perhaps next June, Right.
Well, Todd Hames saw the show, the head of Roundabout, went to London, saw the production, and he committed himself. He said, I have to bring this show into New York. And so this is still his, because it was a choice of the heart. He felt this show was important. This production of it was worth to be seen over here. And, I have to applaud them for their commitment to it, because
were you in London with it, or you were hired here as an American actor to come in?
Just here. There's only Sharon. Some of the creative team came over from London, naturally, and one understudy came over who had been the male understudy in London, but he's actually an expat. He's an American who happens to be living there now. So this is an entire American cast with Sharon, who was the Olivier award-winning star of the London production. So, it gives it a great pedigree. The show has a pedigree. She has one. And this will be actually her Broadway debut. So we all want that for her too. And she's, not only is she an enormous talent, but she's one of the dearest human beings I've worked with. And, every day starts with a hug, and it's like,
wow,
she sets a great tone when you go to work. So.
Well, speaking of work, you, like everybody else, for the past 2.5 months have been on. What have you been? How do you spend your days? Have you done a lot of Zoom theater? Have you just been reading? Have you been looking at the script of Caroline or Change every day just to reserve refreshments? What do you do all day?
Well, it's a mixed bag. I mean, right now we're doing a lot of chores around the house that haven't been. We've had the excuse that we're all too busy. My wife teaches at a private school in Brooklyn, the Berkeley Carroll School. So she's been on a teaching schedule besides writing her books, and she is also building an online educational network that she's in the process of launching called Teach Me TV. So, I mean, I call her a multi-hyphenate because she just does so many different things. We've been very busy. So,
well, it sounds like she's really busy. You're a lazy son of a bitch. Is that more kind of
I'm intermittently busy because the week after the lockdown happened, a friend of mine, Jeremy Wine, who co-produces Play Per View, was one of the first groups to launch a Zoom theatrical event. And he asked me to read Torvald in A Doll's House Part 2, which we did. And I mean, we had this much rehearsal, and here I am acting to the screen when my partner is in the next camera square there. I was amazed at how it came off. I mean, we really, I was so into it. After it was over, I said, "Well, you were screaming so loud. I thought that people upstairs were going to be upset." But so, I mean, I find that you adapt to whatever media that you're in. I also get requests, not infrequently, to do Professor Oak things. Professor Oak, I mean, it turned out to be a blessing that we have such a fan base now. Pokemon is really, literally, people have grown up watching Pokemon. And when things were, before this happened, and I would go to certain Comic-Cons around the country, I would feel like Elvis for the weekend. I'd walk in and people would go, that's him. So I do online, I do greetings, I do voice, I do video stuff, as him. And
well, can you do a little bit of him for us, right? Just a little bit, because I'm sorry to say I don't really know from Pokemon. How different is it from you? Let me hear you do your like Haftorah as Professor Oak there.
Well, that I can't do. It's been a few years, but I will say that hello there, it's me, Professor Oak. I've just come back from Palatown. And on behalf of Ash and Pikachu, I'd like to say I hope you're all doing well and socially distancing and washing your hands. Remember, sing that song, Happy Birthday, Pikachu, Happy Birthday, Pikachu. It goes on like that, about 20 seconds.
No, it's so, that voice gave me chills, not from Pokemon at all. I don't know if you based that just off nothing or just a highlight, but if you ever get to see videos of a science professor named Julius Sumner Miller.
Mm-hmm. I'm not familiar, but I will check it out.
Who did science experiment, was also a physics professor. And
did he have that quality, that kind of quality?
That voice and that tone and that cadence is Julius Sumner Miller.
Well,
amazing.
I'm happy to say that we're going back over 20 years. I had gotten a phone call from a friend of mine who knew the then producers of what was going to be this new anime show. Nobody knew anything about it. He said, "Look, they're looking for character voices. Go give them your number. Tell them I recommended you," which I did. And about 2 weeks later, they set up an audition, and I did about 5 or 6 different characters. And one of them was this professor. So I'm just looking at the picture of him, and it came out. I didn't know what I was going to do until I saw it. And a couple weeks later, they called and said, "We'd like you to do this character." And for the first, 10 sessions or so, they would start by playing back my audition tape so I could remind myself of what I was doing. And eventually it became so second nature, I didn't have to be reminded anymore. And I have to say that that Professor Oak and I have sort of melded, and we are the same. So he's a part of me, I'm a part of him, and I'm enormously grateful of these kids who are no longer kids. I meet these young adults, and when I meet them, they all turn into 10-year-olds. It's just amazing. They all like regress because it's they go, "You were my whole childhood," and they'll ask me that they'll just want to hug me, or take a selfie or whatever it is. And I say, I really have to honor that because it's a wonderful thing.
Not to mention, in career terms, if you never, I mean, God forbid this should happen, if you never did another show again, if you never did any more theater, could you have a decent career just being Professor Oak? And then,
Technically, no, because 10 years into the show, the Nintendo decided to take bids, and they took a bid from another producing company, and basically we were all out the door. Everybody, all the original voices, because we were under contract with 4 kids, and they went with a different producer, and sadly, they did not release us. Had they released us, we could have all moved over there, and they did voice replacements for all of us. So technically, I'm not an employee of them anymore. So, you know, this is more of a personal thing, because the voice came from me. They didn't invent the voice. I didn't have a model. The only other voices were the original Japanese actors who I had never seen or heard. So there's no way you're going to translate those kind of cultures. They did some work. So we created an English-speaking dynamic that I think is solely our creation. And, you know.
But you do other voiceover, you ban other Japanese cartoons, as we said. I mean, how much of your work now is voice as opposed to live on stage on Broadway or touring? Or
I wish it were more than it is right now. So I would love to be doing more. So anyone out there listening.
Well, you have a great voice, you do. Let me ask you, let's roll it back a little bit. By the way, we're talking with Stuart Zagnit on the Dave's Gone By Facebook program on the stream here. Stuart is
yes.
One of our early guests many years ago was a fellow named Bruce Adler, who passed away like a decade ago. Very nice man, very Jewy. Before, he was always on the Chabad Telethon doing his song there. You replaced his character, him, in was it your first Broadway show? Those were the days? Or am I screwing that up a little bit?
Well, so my story with Bruce, and may he rest in peace, he was a lovely human being, an enormous talent. You know, he had a big influence on me. My first experience with him was the show before Those Were the Days was The Golden Land, and that played at the Second Avenue Theater. And I had never done, now, I grew up in a household, my parents spoke Yiddish to each other. They did not teach it to my brother and I was not clever enough to pick it up and say, this is what they're doing. So I knew what it sounded like, but I had never spoken Yiddish. And I was cast as the replacement for Avi Hoffman in the Golden Land. So it was Bruce Adler and Avi Hoffman, and I was nervous. I learned this show like Berlitz. It was like I had the tapes, and everybody was helping me, and I would put the tape on and go to sleep. I swear I was learning the stuff in my sleep. So after about 12 days or so, I'm ready to jump in because Avi needed to leave. And the night I opened in Golden Land, there was a knock on the door, and Bruce came over to my dressing room and said, listen, he goes, I've been doing this show for forever. It's like, months and months and months, because it's not a problem. You tell me what you need, because I want to make this, as easy a transition and make it easier for you. And I was so grateful to him for having that sensitivity. And it totally did put me at my ease, because he said, I understand what you're going through, and I'm here to help you. And no one had ever done that before. And so consequently, my opening show was like, I just sailed through it, which is similar to a couple blocks down when I took over, doing Seymour in Little Shop, which was, one of the dreamiest jobs I've ever had. Hardest job, one of the toughest shows to do, exhilarating, but it was such a joy every night. And my first night opening at the Orpheum, I didn't have anybody in the audience. I said to myself,
oh, no, friends, family, yeah.
Yeah, I said, tonight, this one's for me. I just want to get through it. I just want, and I I mean, I floated out of that theater that night because I just felt like I did it. And it was, as long as I was in that show, I mean, we closed prematurely because of the stock market crash. And I swear we would have run another 6 months. The show was winding down, but no one anticipated it closing as early as it did. So I did get to do some productions of it afterwards. And I talked so much, I forgot what we were talking about.
Well, actually, did you see, because Little Shop is one of the shows that is currently revived off Broadway. It stopped like everything else.
Right.
Did you see this iteration? And are you able to watch someone else do Seymour in Little Shop and enjoy it? Or do you just, when you see Ricky Moranis on the film, it's like, oh, he's not doing that right.
I'm always going to be hypercritical. I did not get to see this particular incarnation of it, and then of course everything was shut down. But I understand it was very respectful, and it was really more of an homage to the original. Show. I'm glad it's being produced. There are a lot of productions that they take a lot of liberties. I understand, but some of it just goes. It's a little jarring, because there was one thing Little Shop had was oodles of humor. It was quirky, but it had a great message, and there was a great intelligence behind it. So it's almost like when people want to make new versions of Fiddler on the Roof. It's like, you don't need to improve perfection. These people did what they did. They were at the top of their game. And I've been lucky enough. I did Tevye in a production at Syracuse Stage many years ago, and it's one of the most cherished experiences. I went from being muddle to a certain degree, and then I aged, and I went, geez, I'm not muddle anymore. And when I finally put on Tevye's clothes, it was like a revelation, and I had such a great time. It was amazing.
So a zillion people have played Tevye.
Yes.
What did you bring to Tevye, you think, that is particularly you, or particularly, I don't want to say different, but particularly special, that Herschel Bernardi, Zero Mostel, Danny Burst, what was your Tevye?
I just think my own personal heritage came into play. That my family, my mother's side, all came from Russia. They all escaped persecution. So I understand. It was so in my blood, and I just thought, this is my chance to honor all these generations of people that came before me, and they were the ones, just like Tevye and his group, that are going to America to start the new land. So their story ended. My family continued that story, and I felt this was part of my story to do this, and it was so great to try on the patriarchal man who. And the thing is, Tevye learns a lot. Tevye thinks he's got it all figured out, and the world changes, and the arc of that character is so rich. And so if you are willing to go on that ride emotionally, the audience will too. And it was a wonderful experience that I will, cherish for a long time. And we were talking about Bruce, and you're right that after Golden Land, I stood by for him when Golden Land was actually on Broadway. It was at the Edison Theater, and it was a legitimate Broadway musical nominated for Tony Awards. Bruce was nominated, the show was nominated. They unfortunately didn't run, but when the show closed, they started a little mini national tour of it. Bruce, in the meantime, was cast as Zangler in Crazy for You. So he left the show to go do Crazy for You. I came in, and since I was standing by for him on Broadway and had never gone on for it, I did Boston, and then I got cast in, I think it was Falsettos, a little mini tour of Falsettos. I left. Mike Burstyn took over for me, and then the national tour of Crazy for You happened, and I got cast as Zangler. So Bruce and I have been
a wonderful small world. Were you the psychiatrist? Were you Mendel in?
I was Mendel, yes. And now I'm working in the show in Caroline Shades with Chip Zien, who was the original Mendel.
Yes, yes.
And I mean, Chip, he was also in People in the Picture, which I did at Studio 54. And I have to say, he and Louis J. Stadlin and I would go to the Cosmic coffee shop around the corner from
The diner, yes.
From Studio 54, and we would laugh all through meals. I mean, it was just like, it was 150 years of showbiz right there between the three of us. It was some of the most fun. Chip is so fast and so quick and so smart, and he really puts me through my paces to keep up with him, but we have a great time, and we're dressing room mates. So,
did you see in the Sondheim birthday tribute, he did the thing from Into the Woods? Wonderful.
I covered the baker in the national tour of Into the Woods. And the first time I went on in the role was at the Kennedy Center, and unbeknownst to everybody, when the show was over, the stage manager said, somebody wants to say hello to you all, and he brings Stephen Sondheim out from the wings, who unannounced had decided to come see the matinee in DC. And saw my first performance as the baker. And once again, he loved the show. He stayed after, gave notes, and gave me notes as if I do this role all the time. And I had relatives in Maryland who had come to see it, and I was meeting them at a restaurant, and I think I floated to the restaurant, after that. And
would it have been, if you had known that Sondheim was in the audience before the show, would that have freaked you out?
Yeah, absolutely. The stage manager saw that his house seats had been pulled, and it took him half of the first act to actually realize it was Sondheim sitting in Sondheim's house seats. But he had the good sense to not say anything. And I, to my dying day, will be grateful that he didn't say anything, because who knows what would have, clouded my vision. I was so focused on just doing the show. It was so important for me to do the show for family and whatnot. And so that was the icing on the cake. And,
That's wonderful. And such a small, as we've been showing, such a small, wonderfully insular group. It's amazing that all performers aren't dead from COVID, because they're all just all together like this.
Yeah, you're true. It's true. And the cast of Caroline, we were very close. We did a lot of warm-up exercises together, a lot of touching, a lot of and we found out that there were two, after we were dismissed, that there were two people who had tested positive on the crew. Mercifully, none of us had come in contact with them, and all of us have been healthy. So, and you heard what happened with Moulin Rouge, and Danny Burstein came close to death. I didn't realize he had been one of the infected people, and it just, your heart stops when you hear this stuff, because the chance was there for all of us. We were all sitting ducks for that. So I feel very grateful that we dodged that bullet. And
absolutely.
Now, of course, we just want to get out again.
Get back on stage again, I know. Yeah. We're talking about that. We have a few minutes more, if you don't mind, with Stuart Zagnit. A couple more questions for you.
Sure.
Since not all, but you are very often cast in a Jewish sort of a way. I mean, your name, there's something Jewish, obviously, about you. Have you ever been told by an agent or a prospective agent, or just gotten a hint of something that, like, yeah, we can't really cast you because you're too Jewish? Were you ever Jewed out of a role, as it were?
Not in so many words, but in 1983 and 84, I originated a show called Kuni Lemel, which took place in the Hasidic world. It was an amazing show. Here's me with Barbara McCullough from the original production. It was a blessed show in that I got a Hirschfeld from it. It ran in the New York Times. The original is hanging right here on the wall, if you can see it, framed. It was a life-changing thing, because I was pretty much out of the business when I auditioned for this show. I couldn't get arrested, and So I went for an interview after I had done I'd been doing the show or done the show with an agent. I don't want to. I'm not going to mention his name. And he had seen the show, right? And you have to imagine, I'm a limping, stammering, half blind, half deaf, hunchback Hassid. Okay, it was the most challenging acting exercise I've ever done. Constructing all the things, the stammer, and I used a lot of life examples. I observed people and I put it together. I was very proud of it. And we're sitting there, and he's saying, I saw you in the show, and I just can't figure out, what you might be right for. And I'm thinking, if I did all of that on stage, what can't I be right for? And if you don't have the imagination to know that you just don't pull a performance like that out of the hat, that this is craft, this is technique, then you totally don't get me. And needless to say, we did not work together. But
actually, I want to go to that moment of your saying where at that point you were at a low ebb career-wise. What were you doing? Did you have day jobs? Did you have what was your degree in? What do you think you would be doing with your life if you didn't have success in the industry?
I always first part of my life when I moved to New York, I had day jobs. I used to sell subscriptions to the New York Times. There was a company called AMA, American Management Association, and we would sell courses that business people could take to improve their productivity. And the room was filled with actors. One of the women who managed it became a writer and executive producer of Home Improvement. Great actors like the late Mark Blum, may he rest in peace, was there. It was a who's who of people doing part-time work. And I did that for a while. I was working at the time of Cooney Lemel, before it happened, selling advertising. I was so desperate, and a friend of mine who was an actress said, well, let me talk to my publisher, who was Dana Mathau, who was Walter Mathau's nephew. And he had a thing called City Guide, a little City Guide. It was a little tourist thing. Yeah. And so I was going around the city selling advertising when I got this audition, and I was supposed to go down and do a 5-week job in South Jersey. As a friend of mine was doing me a favor and handing me a job. And I went, and over the weekend, so they said to me, well, what's your availability? And I said, well, are you offering me the job? Because on Monday, I'm supposed to be on a bus going down to Jersey to do the show. And I said, are you offering me the job? He said, well, we can tell you in 24 hours. We'll tell you the next day on Sunday. I said, well, please do, because this is my situation. And they offered it to me. And a 4-week job extended twice, went into the summer. It was such a big hit. And then a producer picked it up and moved us off Broadway. So basically, I did that show for about a year. And then I did a couple of out-of-town productions of it. It totally brought me back into the business. And, started as a little Jewish rep show. Jewish rep gave me some significant, including a revival of the Grand Tour, which I loved. I was very proud of. Did you meet
Herman? Did you get any notes from him?
From Jerry?
Yeah. No. Excuse you. Call him Jerry. Well,
Mr. Herman.
Yeah.
He was a huge fan of the show, huge fan, and a big supporter. And I think he loved the production because we pared the Grand Tour down to a 1-set show with 2 turntables, and it became more story theater, and it worked so well, and I loved it. And it was this close to also moving off Broadway, and unfortunately, it did not happen, and I wish it had. So I've had some wonderful experiences off Broadway, on Broadway.
Well, let me ask, because we do, and I thank you for spending so much time with us. I want to wrap. But before we let Stuzy go, what is, and we thank you, first of all, for your, can I ask, before I ask our real final question,
sure.
If keep tabs on you, obviously they can go to the Caroline or Change official website to find out when the show will restart previews, when it will open.
Right.
Probably in mid to late winter of 2000. Let's be honest. It's not happening in June. It's not happening in September. It's not. But God willing, early in the new year, that's happening. But where else can they keep track of you? Do you have a website? How can they find out what you're doing?
I have, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram. I have a fan site, Fans of Professor Oak, that if they want to check in on what I'm doing there. I usually post things too. I do some little Professor Oak things every once in a while to keep fans interested. You can reach me on Cameo. Cameo does, it's a site where people such as myself can do shout outs and greetings for people for special occasions. So Professor Oak is available to do, any sort of thing. So
you have to promise me that, you'll watch the rest of this show after I leave, but after this show is over, you've got to check out Julia Sumner Miller. It's just it's freaking me out with that voice.
I'm gonna look him up. That sounds very.
Watch the videos of him.
I hope he didn't steal it from me.
He went back in time, considering he was on the TV in the 1950s and 60s, and 70s. But anyway, let me ask you though, you've
Sure.
some amazing career highlights. The fiddler thing that you were doing as Tevye, the moment you had son. I mean, is there one more career absolute highlight about a day, a performance, something in your life that you will always cherish and remember, like a greatest moment or the moment you knew you made it as an actor, some other like, oh, I'm so glad I'm in this business kind of moment or day?
Yeah, I think technically I was on Broadway with Those Were the Days, but because I never performed it on stage, for me, Wild Party, I think as my Broadway debut. And the day we walked over to the theater to move rehearsals and start tech at the then Virginia Theater, and I opened up that stage door and I looked at my name on the sign-in sheet. I said, I've dreamed about this my whole life. I've dreamed of doing this. And I have to say, to this day, I said, I never want to take that for granted, that there's a lot of people who don't get the opportunity to do that. And that's a wonderful thing. And I love the fact that I can, like, going to Studio 54, I know it used to be a discotheque, but it is a fabulous, legit theater. And there again, I go on the other side and walk through, and there's my name on the sign, and I go up to my dressing room. It's a beautiful experience, and I'm very blessed. And I try never ever to forget that. And I toured with Wicked. I was the wizard for 15 months on the national tour, and that was a gift. These are wonderful gifts to be able to bring your talents to thousands of people, in an evening. And I'm in a very blessed profession, and I don't want to ever take it for granted. So it's I would say those are my experiences. There's many more.
Hullabaloo in early 2021 when you're doing Caroline or Change, it'll be man. So I want to just say that it is a blessing to me to talk to delightful, talented people like this man, Stuart Zagnit. Go check him out. Go check out this cameo stuff that he's doing. Certainly keep tabs on Caroline or Change when that's coming to Broadway in the year ahead. Much continued health for you and your talented wife, who makes you look something. She's just, yeah. How can they?
That's right. She has she has an online live book event starting this afternoon, so they can go to Facebook. Workman is her publisher, and they'll give the details about her book event. So it's a beautifully illustrated, lovely book. So can you tell I'm a big fan?
Just a little. And you have a talented, so they're all making you look like nothing. Your son's really accomplished. Your wife never stops working. You sit there. I am Professor Oak, and that's your day.
It's not a living. What can I tell you?
It's not a living. It's a loving. This is.
Thank you. Very nice. Yes. Well put.
Stuzy Zagnit, I thank you so much once again. I wish you health and much success, and shalom to you.
Thank you too, Rabbi Sol. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Could you? Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Did I leave? I'm leaving.
Bye. Bye. Oh, what a joy, what a delight to talk to Stuart Zagnit here on the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the stream with me, Rabbi Sol Solomon. I'm not doing the rest of the show. You're going to have to listen to this voice for another hour. Dave Lefkowitz, who is the host of this program. It is, by the way, just so you know, it is the last Saturday in May, Shabbos. It's May 30th, 2020. It is the 748th episode of the Dave's Gone By program. We've been calling it ZAG ZIG for our guest in the Daverhood, Stuart Zagnit. There's so much more to do. So what we're going to do is play a little bit more of Stu singing. This is a song from Little Shop of Horrors, that show that he was in off Broadway when that was running, the original one, years ago. Here is a bit of Grow for Me.
I'm giving you sunlight. I'm giving you rain. Looks like you're not happy. Unless I have been a man. I'll give you a few drops. If that'll please. Now please. Oh, please. Grow for me. I'm worn out. I'm weary. I ain't no machine. My head hurts. My feet hurts. Everything in between.
Wasn't that just delightful? Wasn't that just great to have Rabbi Sol Solomon talking with Stuart Zagnit on Dave's Gone By? You see why I like to have certain guests on the program. You know, sometimes it's great when we don't have a guest, like last week, where we just get to do a typical old-fashioned show and all the segments that we do. But when we get a guest like that, who's just so personable and such nice stories and so much fun, it makes it a delight for me to do the show, and also, of course, to step away and watch Rabbi Sol do his thing. But anyway, if you want to find out more about the program, remember that you can go to our website, davesgoneby.com, DAVESGONEBY. Davesgoneby.com is the site. And remember, it's a place where all our archives reside. So from the very first episode that we did in October of 2002, all the way up through the show we did last week, nearly every single one is saved. You can stream it, you can download it as a podcast. We also have a separate archive on the same site where we just have the interviews. If you don't want to hear the whole show, you can just find all these wonderful people that we've talked to. It's all there. I want to remind you that if you're particularly into podcasting, we've also been putting the audio of our shows on castbox.fm. Castbox.fm. We have a page there, and the past 7 or 8 years now of our shows are there, and it's for people, not that anybody's running off to the gym yet, but if you're outside and you're sitting somewhere, you don't want to just be looking at my face, you just want the audio and you want it on your little machine, that's a great place to go get it. So the past 7 or 8 years of audio archives of Dave's Gone By, you'll find on castbox.fm. The audio and video archives we've also been saving to a marvelous website called archive.org. They've been huge over especially over the COVID thing, because they've downloaded great books and they've downloaded all this material from the golden age of radio and golden age of television. They're just trying to be this archive of the 20th century. It's a nonprofit organization, 20th and 21st century, called archive.org. And so we're thrilled that our programs are going up there alongside, material by Stan Freberg and old Fibber McGee and Molly shows and The Shadow and Mick and Sade and Beyond the Frame. I mean, just like, you think of it, they've got, if they have the legal rights to it, they've got it posted for folks to enjoy and to watch. So archive.org is another place that you can find our archives of the show. Not to mention this Facebook page, Dave's Gone By, where you can scroll down, and not right now, you're watching me live, but at any point and just scroll and see the last 2 or 3 years of the video programs that we've done right here, Saturday mornings from 9 until noonish or thereabouts, Dave's Gone By. So we have so much to do. Wow. We've got our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. We've got our Wretched Kind of Destiny. We have our Today, Yesterday quiz to get done. And what else do we have? Well, since we just talked to Stuart Zagnit, and he was talking about being on Broadway in The Wild Party and in Seussical, and those were the days in the Golden Land, and doing all sorts of national tours of Wicked and Seussical, etc. So let's keep the theater bit going as we do our weekly segment that is devoted specifically to Broadway. We go inside Broadway. Inside Broadway, a look at theater on and off Broadway and beyond. Brought to you by Total Theater and Performing Arts Insider. Curtain going up. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, inside Broadway we go every week, and there's not a ton of Broadway news this week, as you can imagine, just because, well, it's summertime anyway. So actually, ordinarily, right this time of year would be just before the Tony Awards. So it'd be a whole big flurry of activity. Although I do have some news about that, I'm going to share in a moment. But here's the deal. Let's talk a little bit of Broadway Corona, reminding you that shows stopped on and essentially off Broadway too on March 12th and have been dormant since then. Officially, these productions are on hiatus through September 7th. What that really means is that if you bought tickets to any show between now and September 6th, you can get your money back or exchange them for later. But don't be buying tickets for anything for September 8th. Nothing's on sale yet. There was another interview with Charlotte St. Martin, who is the head of the Broadway League. These are all the producers and theater owners on Broadway. She told the Daily Beast newspaper that she's aiming for a reopening right after the new year. She would love for it to be over the holidays. It would be great if they could start around, Thanksgiving or right after Halloween, because that's the point when the tourists start coming and it's the holiday season, and the tourists will come. But the thing is, first of all, they're not expecting a whole big flurry of tourists coming to New York this year. And second of all, just trying to figure out how to get all the protocols in place of how do you disinfect the theater after every show, maybe an intermission. How do you check the audiences coming in? Are you taking their temperatures? Are you taking the temperatures up here, or, and what do you do? How do you safely distance people? And I think I mentioned this last week, it's not as if you're suddenly going to open theaters to these hit shows that were running that were almost at capacity, selling 90, 100% throughout the week, and then suddenly reopen them with half the house full, with everybody distanced, and still make a profit, still have it worth it for producers to run the show. And she said, no, that's not going to happen. We're going to wait until it's safe to have people sitting, as they do in the theater, next to each other. They might be wearing masks, but still, it's gonna feel like a theater. You're gonna have that energy. Plus, in order to make any money and not lose money, you have to pack enough people into that theater to make it worthwhile. Now, the one thing that they will try and deal with is, what do you do about the bathrooms? What do you do about the ridiculous Broadway lobbies, where just to go to the bathroom from your seat in a Broadway house? Most of them, some of them, like the Marriott Marquis, which everybody seems to hate. Everybody makes fun of the Marriott Marquis, but it's one of the more reasonable places where you get up, you leave. It's kind of a pain in the ass to leave the theater at the end because a bunch of folks swarming down an escalator. But to go to the bathroom, it's a big lobby of a hotel. You have room. You don't have to mass and huddle together and squeeze past people who are buying orangeade and vodka tonics. So most of the other old Broadway theaters don't have that. You're squeezing sardines in a can, whether they just want to get a little breath of fresh air or go down to the bathrooms or, grab a snack or something. They've got to figure that out. And by the time they do, maybe they've got it already almost figured out. But to put those protocols in place once the theaters get back open, it's not going to happen in the fall. She's thinking shortly after the new year is when they will figure it out and get it going. And as I think I read last week, Chris Jones out in Chicago, Chicago journalist and theater critic there, he said Chicago might end up being the testing ground. They'll do shows there and see how that works in the new normal, and then take those ideas for New York. Okay, anyway, enough with the COVID, enough, right? So let's have some sad news. Cannot get away from the very sad news that this week we lost Larry Kramer, screenwriter, playwright, LGBT advocate, died on Wednesday of pneumonia. He was 84 years old, which is quite amazing considering he's been living with HIV since, the 1980s. Larry Kramer, middle-class Jew from Connecticut. His parents moved to Maryland, and he knew even in his early teenhood that he was gay, but he dated women for a while. He went to Yale, was really miserable and lonely there, couldn't really come out. He made some half-hearted attempts at suicide while he was there, but then, the creativity in him came out. He started as a screenwriter. I didn't even remember this. He wrote the screenplay for that celebrated and controversial Ken Russell adaptation of Women in Love, with Alan Bates and Oliver Reed, nude wrestling and all that, Ken Russell. Huh? So he wrote the screenplay for that film, which was kind of a hit. He also wrote the screenplay for a big flop. There was a musical version in 1973 of the James Hilton novel Lost Horizon. It's like sank without a trace. However, Kramer got paid enough to do that, to write the screenplay for it. And his brother is like a financial dude. So he gave his brother any proceeds, any profit that he made doing it, and it was invested wisely. And it allowed Kramer never really having to work again. He's just one nice paycheck from Hollywood, he was set. So he started writing other things. He started writing for the theater. He wrote a novel that was chastised and not very well liked in the gay community. The novel was called, and forgive me for using this expression, this is the name of the novel. It was called Faggots, and it was all about how gay people in the 1960s and 70s were behaving in ways that were negatively stereotypical and having incredibly shallow personalities and lifestyles. And of course, gay people did not want to see that negative reflection of themselves, particularly when straight society was putting other negative perceptions of them on themselves. But anyway, Kramer, of course, came to the fore in a big and forever lasting way during the AIDS era. He helped, with all these friends, form the Gay Men's Health Crisis, the GMHC. And the thing was, he was the tinderbox. He was the matchstick. If you know the play, The Normal Heart, he's the angry, irascible guy whom you say, oh, no, him again. No, I don't take the call. He's just going to scream at me. And yet, that was needed, okay? That was something that he had to be the voice to make people listen when people weren't. When Mayor Koch wasn't listening, when the President of the United States wouldn't even say the name AIDS for a couple of years into his presidency, when not enough money was being spent by, I guess, the CDC and by scientists and stuff to deal with this plague that was killing everyone he knew. So yeah, he became the a-hole, proudly, in a way, probably in a way that he couldn't necessarily control, but in a way that was crucial at the time, even again, alienating the gay people around him. Because he was saying, you know, stop acting like either that this isn't happening or that, you know, I'm taking away your freedom by asking you to wear condoms or just not have sex at all for a while because it's going to kill you. And they're saying, oh my God, you know, we've earned the right. It's post-Stonewall. We want to behave the way we want to behave on Fire Island. We have a straight community telling us X, Y, and Z. And now you're telling us that we're being bad for being openly and having sex with who we want and how we want. And he's saying, well, if you're going to die out from doing it, stop. And he became so, such a thorn in the side, not only of the straight community, but of the gay community, that they threw him out of the GMHC. He was so not disliked, but he was so dreaded and so impossible to deal with at points that they just said, no, we need, if somebody's going to keep listening to us, we need someone who is the front face of this organization that is not going to turn off everybody that we talk to. Thank you so much for helping found us. Thank you for all you've done for us, but can you just kindly, you know, step aside? And then he wrote his lasting monument, one of the great totems of late 20th century theater, The Normal Heart, which, you know, I've talked about this play on this program, and kills me that I never saw the original at the Public Theater, which was more than a show. If you read reports of the time, reviews of the time, it wasn't just a play that was funny and touching and made you angry and made you think. It was cataclysmic for New York at that time, and for certainly the New York gay community. They would come out of the theater and hugging and sobbing and feeling like, you know, what am I doing? Why am I not actively on the front lines of this? Why aren't I answering phone calls for the GMH? And why aren't I pounding on the door of my local senator? Why am I still in the closet? I mean, you know, they would just be at the Public Theater unable to leave the space because they were just so rattled and vibrated and overwhelmed by this piece of writing. I didn't get to see The Normal Heart until later off-Broadway production with Raul Esparza in it, by the way. And it just floored me. I didn't realize what an extraordinary piece that it was. How it's like 3 hours and 15 minutes that goes by in about 12 minutes. And there are scenes that just had me bawling. Absolutely. Just you know, I didn't get to see the last Broadway iteration, unfortunately. The news is that there's a producer, Ryan Murphy, who wants to bring, once there's Broadway back, wants to bring The Normal Heart back to Broadway. Not only that, he wants to pair it with Larry Kramer's other play. He wrote some other plays, but he wrote a sequel to The Normal Heart called The Destiny of Me, that I remember being pretty good, but it was so long ago. I don't really remember it, except I won't give anything away, but there's a scene in it in a hospital where blood bags go flying, and it's sort of an equivalent to the milk scene in The Normal Heart. Anyway, so this producer wants to bring in repertory The Normal Heart and The Destiny of Me to Broadway in a year or two. So I hope that really happens. And by the way, when I saw The Destiny of Me, it starred a fella who went on to some renown, a little guy named John Cameron Mitchell, who I guess that experience of doing the Larry Kramer show allowed him to really open up, and he ended up creating Hedwig and the Angry Inch. So, what else did Larry Kramer do? He wrote a book called The American People, A History. It started out as, I guess, a factual history, and then called it a novel. And it was part of that whole sort of ridiculous movement where pretty much every famous person in history was actually closet gay. That was the assertion by Larry Kramer. Abraham Lincoln, Andrew Jackson, Mark Twain, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, all gay, or at least bisexual, according to this novel by Larry Kramer. Haven't read it, but anywho, Kramer was diagnosed with HIV in the late 1990s. He had liver failure, but he actually got a new liver in 2001, and that gave him 2 more decades. And this is wonderful. In 2013, he married his longtime partner, David Webster. I mean, you even see that relationship reflected in, well, in a different way. I'm screwing something up there, sorry. But anyway, it's just what we lost, man, in Larry. And it's not just for the LGBT community and not just for the whole AIDS thing, but the kind of person that it takes to be out there hollering. Sometimes when you need hollering, sometimes when you don't. But there's this person who's indefatigable, who says, you know what, I'm comfortable with who I grew up having to hate myself. I'm not going to hate myself anymore. I am who I am. Or as the Jerry Herman song goes, I am what I am. Right? And this person who accepts that and then uses that as a stepping stone to say, I'm proud of this and I'm going to fight so hard for this because people are dying because it's meaningful to me.
Are you talking again the plastic straw? Are you talking about plastic straw?
No, I'm not talking about plastic straws or state capitals.
Jackson.
Yeah. No, we're doing a eulogy for Larry Kramer.
Oh boy, didn't we see
the Normal Heart?
Yeah, that was you loved that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry, David, I missed them because I wasn't here. I couldn't do comment.
Yeah, but anywho, a big sad farewell. But who's that girl who
got a lot of stuff.
Who's that Norwegianish girl?
Oh, Bjork?
No. Who's pro-ecology and it's all about global warming? Yeah. She's, Trump hates her. She's always making fun of Trump.
I don't know.
Greta Thunberg, something like that. No, it's not Idris. But there won't be a Greta Thunberg in the same way without someone like a Larry Kramer. This idea of, I'm just going to say it.
I did the ACT UP stuff. So I was with HIV. Yeah. I worked with HIV.
Yeah.
And there was a whole movement when HIV first got identified as the virus. I remember in, what's that cathedral, St. Patrick's?
Yeah.
ACT UP just went on the floor. People threw blood. But ACT UP, you know what they did? Think about COVID. We have a fast track for vaccines and a fast track for medications. All the HIV medications, they ACT UP pushed to fast track them. So if they did work in trials, people could get access. So it's like even the Gorilla Girls and the Pussy Riot and all these groups. This is like ACT UP.
Absolutely, and Kramer was part of ACT UP after GMHC forced him out. Yeah, so it's this idea of had they fast tracked a vaccine back in 1983. Let's say, would thousands of gay men still be alive? I mean, you can't really necessarily go back and say, well, of course.
It's just that you read the book Faggot.
Who did?
So everybody's writing, and because I was in the other room, I didn't own the rabbis here. I can't. It's too big.
No, I get it. Yeah.
So Lisa said, I read the book Faggot when I was in Utah State. It's part of my real education. And then Iris said, great show, David. Really enjoyed the pre-interview banter. Yes, about the plastic bag. And she's Joyce Zagnit. Love Caroline or Change. Welcome seeing the revival whenever it will be. Glad you're doing well under these crazy circumstances.
Thank you. See, I don't get to see I mean, I guess I've got a Facebook window up here somewhere, but I'm watching myself on Zoom. Yeah. And I also, I actually have real time. There's not a lag thing, but I'm still not seeing. I wonder if I can see the people if I expand this a little bit. No, that's totally fine. That's absolutely fine.
I'm sorry I missed because when the rabbis here, I went out and then I lost track of time.
Sure, absolutely. But I could use you now because we have a little bit more of our Inside Broadway segment. I'm gonna have our mascot, Oofty Gooft. He's not Gritty, the Philadelphia. Oh, no, I don't have him. Hold it, hand it to me properly. Don't want to break a dog's spine here. Here we go. Here's our adorable. This is our Oofty Gooft. Wow. Yeah, his eyes look a little kind of a cootie today, but here's our boy. Oh, she's taking him. Anyway, that is our dog moment of the day to keep you watching. You never know what's going to happen on Dave's Gone By. I'll tell you what's going to happen right now. I'm going to push this magazine because we're doing Inside Broadway.
Why are you pushing
it? Because I believe in it. Because Performing Arts Insider has been the Bible of Broadway since 1944. This is the place where people in the entertainment industry turn to find out everything that's going on, off, and off Broadway. Now, granted, this is the March issue. we're only finishing May here. So we've been doing issues. We've been sending them out to our readers via
You have a lot
email.
of issues.
But why do issues right now? There's nothing going on. Yes, there is.
Even
Yeah,
though I want
yeah.
a Zagnut bar.
I know, right? But they're terrible. Joyce just said she wants a Zagnut bar. But Performing Arts Insider, there is going to be theater again. There's going to be Broadway and off-Broadway again. It may not be until January, February, but if you want to know, what are the shows that are in the pipeline? What shows will be coming back that were playing before? What might not? If you want to know the little shows, off and off-Broadway, that may well come back before the Broadway shows do, the listings in this journal are incredible, and you can't find them anywhere else. So you get a guide to the Broadway season, a little map of the Broadway Theater District. You get a guide to every theater, where it's located, how many seats it has, whether it's Nederlander, Schubert, or Manhattan Theater Club. You get a guide to all the press agents. These are the people you go through if you want to contact folks who are in shows, the designers, the lyricists, the composers, the actors. These are the folks that you go through. And then our great listings day by day, when a show starts, previews, opens, closes, for not only Broadway, but off and off Broadway as well. Page after page, and awards and special events, right? Because those will come back too. There will be a Tony Awards, might not be for a few months. There will be other award ceremonies. This tells you all the information you need to know. And then we get to the heart of Performing Arts Insider, these incredible listings of, so comprehensive. For example, we were talking with Stuart Zagnit about Caroline or Change. Look at all this information. This is book and lyrics by Tony Kushner, music by Janine Tesori, directed by Michael Longbottom. These are all the designers here. These are all the people in the cast. Is Stu Zagnit here? He sure is. He plays Grandpa. Okay, I can tell you that right there. And then lower down, a bit of the plot, some notes about the show, that it started at the Chichester Festival in the United Kingdom, and so forth, the producers and how to contact them, the press agents, the theater, the address, the dates that it's running. Now imagine that information for every show on, off, and off Broadway. You don't have to imagine it. It's all in the pages of Performing Arts Insider. So to find out how you can subscribe month after month, 12 times a year, just go to performingartsinsider.com. performingartsinsider.com. It's a pricey publication, no question. But the people who get it renew year after year. They know it's the only place they can get all this incredible New York theater info. Performing Arts Insider, the Bible of Broadway. Speaking of Broadway, let's finish our Inside Broadway segment, not with some death news, not with some COVID bad news, with some happy news. I mentioned awards. Well, tomorrow, which is my way of saying tomorrow, Sunday, May 31st, the 65th annual.
Put the link in the chat.
Oh,
PerformingArtsInsider.com.
oh, thank you, Ben. The 65th annual Drama Desk Awards will be happening. They are going to be live streaming. It's going to be broadcast on New York 1, if you get that, or just go to dramadeskawards.com if you want to watch it right on your computers. Dramadeskawards.com. Appearances are going to be, folks who are going to be part of it include James Corden, your favorite actress, Kristen Chenoweth will be there.
Oh!
She hates Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Oh!
She also hates Kristen Chenoweth. I don't know. One of the most fun interviews I've ever done. I wish it were on the show.
She's
Was
like,
Kristen Chenoweth.
She's too much.
Oh no, she's wonderful. Alan Cumming will be there. Jane Krakowski.
Oh.
What are you owing about these people? Santino Fontana, Audra McDonald. Audra.
Of course. Whoa, Miss Audra.
Audra. Cynthia Nixon, Jesse Tyler Ferguson.
Woo.
Frank DeLella will be hosting. And what's nice is, it's not going to be a big old rubber chicken dinner. It's not going to be a thing. It's just online. But if you want to make a donation, everyone's invited. Everyone can watch for free, but you can make donations to the Actors Fund,
That's nice.
which has emergency funding for actors coping with.
Because actors never need money.
There are lots of nominees. I read them last week, some of them. Winners will be announced at the ceremony, so there will be suspense. I wonder if they'll do a Zoom thing. of like having the nominees in boxes, and then they'll just probably not, but they can try it. It's the Drama Desk Awards ceremony, and it's going to be happening Sunday, tomorrow night, I think 7, maybe 8 o'clock. You'll have to check dramadeskawards.com to watch live. So check it out. So there may not be Tony's next week, but we got the Drama Desk this weekend. Oh, and next weekend, I'm going to do it.
Wow.
I am going to do it.
Wow.
The 16th annual Total Theater Broadway special. We're going to have it.
Is it a Tony Awards?
No, well, it's not connected to, we usually call it.
Famous people like usually have Tony Awards. Who's nominees? Nobody.
There is no, that's the thing. There's no, we're not calling it the Total Theater Tony Show this year. Because, but there has been a season, like, 2/3 of the season
Why
did
don't you
open.
just give awards to like show that never gave a press release they were closing till the end. Last show to say they were closing post-COVID. Show that constantly theater company that constantly said they were doing shows when they weren't.
Show with the highest audience death count from COVID. Yeah,
like
right. Yeah.
One that never updated website since March 2012.
Yeah, actually, they're all so connected that if you go to one, you see all the official things like September 6th.
And then I think you should say this is the only time you can see Hamilton.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, but no, we're
We
not
can
going
talk about Frankenstein, people who put most use of digital media to get theater out.
Well, that's actually a good thing. I won't be surprised if we start seeing awards next year
I want a
that involves
category-
Zoom theater.
A
Yeah.
category for most withering and writhering on the floor during a
Right.
performance.
Joyce was talking about seeing Benedict Cumberbatch do Frankenstein for the National Theatre in London. They did it for a week. They streamed for free.
For a week, he flipped.
Yeah. And well, he and Johnny Lee Miller from Elementary, they traded off playing Frankenstein's monster. So we saw a bit of Benedict Cumberbatch playing
TNA.
Frankenstein's monster, basically walking around for the first half hour in undershorts, which Joyce rather liked. He has a nice tush.
It's more like a loincloth. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah, of course. Well, you live in Loin. Anywho, so where was I with this? So next week, even though there's no Tony Awards, there's no nominations, there may be a Tony Awards for the season in the future, or they may lump the seasons together. It's hard to say. But we can do a show celebrating Broadway. And that's exactly what we're going to do. Next week, we're going to have some of our old favorite theater critics coming on the show, weighing in on some of their favorite performances of all time. Also, what their favorite performances were of the season, because we did have a season between last May and this March. Like 2/3 of the season went through. And all my critic friends saw all these shows on and off Broadway. What did they love the best? And we'll also ask them their ideas for getting theater back open and how to keep things safe and so forth. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Why
I know.
don't you talk to some critics who actually put their own shows online?
Well, that'd be cool. That'd be cool. I don't know if that's right. That's right. Absolutely.
You have
So
some friends who went up online.
yeah. I want to make sure we can get him because
It's
I got to
religious.
pre-tape him.
Yeah.
But all the rest should be live, Zooming on our show next week. So we're doing the 16th annual Total Theater Broadway show during our regular time, 9 until
Can
noon
you call it
next Saturday.
Tony who?
And we,
Tony who?
Tony, no, we're not going to Tony who. It's Tony now. Tony,
Oh.
but we'll call it a Broadway show. Enjoy.
How about award this?
You're being so contentious about this. Why?
I don't know.
Hmm.
Lisa said, I have a question. Did you really hate living in Greeley? What did you talk about hating?
We were joking about that. I liked.
What were
Greeley.
you talking about?
You didn't like living in
What were
Greeley.
you talking about?
I mentioned Greeley, Colorado, northern Colorado, in context for Greeley Crimes and Old Times, maybe, for the newspaper. And just saying that, well, what we're known for, I mean, I've told this to a friend of mine the other day.
I'm going to say just relaying media.
Greeley, Colorado, I mean, we were on the front page of the New York Times twice in the past 3 weeks. One, because they were desperate to get businesses open, including a tattoo parlor. So it was like, oh, the tattoo parlor in Greeley is open. Things are okay. And also they're known for having the JBS meat plant, which makes the town reek every other morning. I mean, I'm used to it. It's like a farm composty smell anyway. I don't mind it. And the JBS plant was sort of ground zero for COVID there. They shut it down for 2 weeks. And it's also apparently a place to work where you're gonna lose a thumb. You're gonna lose some digit in some meat grinding accident. It's gotta be one of those, because they're dealing with all these immigrants, most of them probably not legal, nobody cares. So it's like, you know, they've got a big sign there, I'm sure, that says, we have gone, 3.5 hours without an accident. It's a record this month, you know. But no, I rather liked Greeley. There's some issues with, like, as with every place, but that's my Greeley thing.
And we have very good friends. I mean, your writing group people, they
Oh,
saw your shows, they drove to Boulder. I mean, like, you had
I got to teach there. I had some wonderful students. I mean, there was a lot to like. And of course,
tell Lisa you're an extremist. I guess she doesn't know.
On the air, I am. Certainly I am. I mean, and the idea that I could walk about 4 blocks from our house, go down the street, and in the distance see the Rocky Mountains. Like, yeah. Yeah, that was a pretty amazing thing for a Brooklyn boy to
talk about the Subaru.
Oh, well, we could have gotten a Subaru in any place, but we bought a Subaru because everybody buys a Subaru in Colorado. We just do. Anywho, wow, we went far.
Lisa said because of the Limerick of the Damned.
Oh, that's not just.
Oh, that.
Well, see, the Colorado Limerick of the Damned isn't just Greeley. It isn't just northern Colorado. It's every possible place that I can think of that, or that is a place in Colorado. For some reason, this mind here starts thinking of the most disgusting, rude, horrible poems that he could think of, and do one a week for these places in Colorado. As a matter of fact, I'm reminding you that later in the show, our Colorado Limerick will be going to Last Chance, Colorado. That's actually a place. Last Chance, Colorado. And we also have our Wretched Pun of Destiny coming up, which will be a terrible, horrible pun following a short and kind of horrible story too. So that's what you get on Dave's Gone By. We also, what else do we have to do here? Oh my gosh, do you know if Jeff and if Seth are with us?
I don't see Seth, but I have to repeat.
Oh, okay, okay. Because I want to get started with our, I want to do our quiz. So here's the deal. So Cynthia and Jeff might not be tuned in. This is your chance, ladies and gentlemen. This is your moment, as Frank Wildhorn would say. We'll do a quiz. It's all about May 30th in history. All these things happen on this date in history. You get to, without checking Google, without cheating or wikiing or binging, see if you can answer the questions. And you're more than welcome to type the answers in and on the site and message them in so everybody can see. Can you be the first one to get the right answer to these questions? Usually Cynthia and Jeff are playing and they're spot on. That beat everybody else to the punch. But since they, I don't think, are here, you, Lisa, or whoever, might have the opportunity to type in and be the first person to get it right. We call this segment, by the way, our Today, Yesterday quiz, because today is May 30th, and your job is to figure, hey, what happened on May 30th, all down the line, getting to this one. Obviously, I'm stalling, I'm vamping until I get to the intro music.
No schneff.
Yes, we know there's an answer. Got to find it by yourself, or you're more than welcome to consult with a colleague. Are you ready, dear, for our Today, Yesterday quiz?
Okay.
Here we go. This is our official prop. Thousands spent on this. It's amazing how much money we had to just get this. But anyway, here we go. First question of our Today, Yesterday quiz for May 30th, 2020. We go all the way back to 1431. I don't know if you remember that. I was around. 1431. 19-year-old Joan of Arc was burned to death today by English forces for her leadership in the 100 Years' War. Which of these things about St. Joan's life was not true? Was it A, B, C, or D? A, nearly 500 years later, the bob haircut, the fad, was based on her look. Letter B, she never fought in a battle. She just carried a banner and planned strategy. C, she was executed for being a witch. D, for 6 years after her death, Joan's brothers dressed up another woman as Joan of Arc to keep her legend alive in France. So,
The first one.
give people a chance and give people a chance to type.
Where
So
should you
A,
put
B,
that
C, or D.
xylophone?
Oh, my xylophone! I don't know where my xylophone is.
Is it in the other room?
It's my
Probably.
County Downey xylophone. It's probably in the other room. I want it.
I'll get it.
I want it.
It's like the straw.
I need it. I'll read them again. It's Joan of Arc was burned to death today, May 30th, 1431. What was the particular she annoyed people for a lot of different reasons, but what was the particular reason that Joan of Arc was burned to death? Was it, sorry, the actual question is, which of these things about Saint Saint Joan's life was not the case? Which of these was not true about Joan of Arc? 500 years later, the bob haircut fad was based on her haircut. B, she never actually fought a battle. She just carried a banner and planned strategy.
That's true.
C, Joan was executed for being a witch. Or D, for 6 years after she died, her brothers dressed up a Joan of Arc look-alike to keep her legend alive in
A is
France.
the fake. The first one's the fake.
So Joyce is saying letter A, the bob haircut. Do we have anybody else brave enough to chime in? Any Lisa or somebody? I'm hoping maybe. No. I'll give it another moment or two, and then I'll play the magic thinking music.
I wonder if you plug that in, would it say on the air?
Oh, would it light up? You mean?
Yeah.
I don't think that part is lit.
Oh, okay.
But this show is lit. There we go. I wish I could play the Leonard Cohen song Joan of Arc on this thing, but here we go. And the answer of which was not true about Joan of Arc is actually, it is not true that she was executed for being a witch.
I thought that one, but
Yeah. What happened was she had recanted, she had renounced her thing. And then, even though she did, when she was in prison, she started dressing as a boy again
of course.
and saying that she was hearing voices.
She was
apparently-
mentally ill.
Well, allegedly she did that because she was a captor. If she was dressing as a girl, these guards were going to beat her and rape her. So she figured she was going to dress as a boy and do that. But because she did that, after renouncing and recounting and promising to be good to all these priests, she was labeled not a witch, but a relapsed heretic.
Lisa said she knew it wasn't the bob hairdo because she had one.
Yeah.
She believes it.
And the
no, she believed it was the last one.
No, her brothers actually dressed up another woman to keep her legend alive. The bob haircut was based on Joan of Arc,
It's like Rattlesnake Gate.
and she never actually did any, even though we see her with a sword and charging,
No,
but
she
she never fought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she never fought.
Yeah. Anyway, so that is question number one. So, okay, next question in our Today Yesterday quiz. We move all the way up to 1806. Tennessee plantation owner and horse breeder Charles Dickinson was killed in a duel today. Who pulled the trigger? And here's a hint. At the time, the killer was just a lawyer and a politician.
Say it again.
Okay, don't give me the answer.
Go slow, go
But-
slow.
So on this date in 1806, so the
30th.
year is a clue, Tennessee plantation owner and horse breeder Charles Dickinson was killed in a duel. Who killed him?
Hattie Carroll.
Well,
Well,
that wasn't a lonesome death because there would have been two people involved, but no.
And a little of
So see if you can figure out. Use your noodles. Why is this notable?
Do you need more salsa?
No, I'm good for now. Here's a little bit of a hint. It's also a guy who's kind of known, sort of, at least nicknamed, for violence in a way.
Me?
So I'm going to give you another few seconds. And if you don't want to type in, that's totally cool. You can just play at home by yourselves. But if you want to type in and be the first to share your answer, do we get any responses?
Let me check. I didn't see, but hold on. I gotta go back and check. Nope.
No, nobody.
Lisa says "ga."
Ga.
I don't know what that means.
Ga. That's probably a voice in the Pokemon series that Stuart Zagnit isn't doing. Ga. And no, the answer is bloody Andrew Jackson, upcoming president of the United States.
Andy, I think we call him.
And well, here's the deal: Stonewall, Andrew Jackson. He in that duel, the other guy shot first, hit Andrew Jackson right in the chest, got him, broke a couple of ribs, but then Jackson took aim and shot the guy dead.
And so the moral of the story is, if you challenge someone to a duel, make sure you know how to use a gun.
Yeah, right. Oh, so
Lisa said Aaron Bunn, Andrew Jackson.
Maybe Aaron Bird. No, it's Andrew Jackson.
Oh.
Andrew Jackson.
Yeah, I can't read. Sorry, Lisa.
All right. Well, all right. But here we go. On to our next question. Some of them get easier. Some of them get harder. This one's maybe a little tricky. 1896. Henry Wells of Springfield, Massachusetts, and bicyclist Evelyn Thomas.
Why do I know that name?
Well, it's not Evelyn Waugh, it's Evelyn Thomas. Were both in New York City on the same day, at the same time, in the same place.
Doing what?
Why is that of historical interest?
Say it again slowly.
The year, 1896.
Okay.
Again, that's kind of not sort of a clue of the time and place. Henry Wells of Springfield, Massachusetts, and bicyclist Evelyn Thomas were both in New York City on the same day, at the same time, and in basically the same exact place. Why is that of historical interest?
I didn't look.
Give it a moment. Oh, I forgot to hold up the.
Let me see. I'm going to refresh in case any of the people came on, Dave.
Cool.
I may be Sinjin or some doing something. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it's great when my cousins tune in, but they're not there. Other people can chime in. Lisa. So, do we have any kind of answer on this one? This is not.
I'll give it to you.
Hold on, let me.
God means damn it.
Yeah. Rabbi Sol would appreciate that one. So, do we have an answer though on?
None from the Peanut Gallery, but I say it's the first integrated men and women bike race.
Wow, what a wonderful
That's
answer.
Not true.
Not true. I don't know. Probably there were at that point in New York. It would have been. Who knows?
So unique.
But here's the deal. Picture them. You got a guy in a car.
Yeah. Oh, like a car bike race?
Not quite. Not parallel to each other. More like perpendicular. What would happen? Let's say, if you've got a car and a bike in the same place.
Car accident? First car accident?
It was the first on record automobile accident in history. And what happened was he hit her because he stunned her, put her in the hospital with a broken leg, and he spent the night in jail.
I believe they call it the automobile.
The auto machine. His auto machine was wobbling around a bit and struck Evelyn Thomas, the bicyclist, becoming the very first in 1896 first car accident in history.
That's upsetting.
Well, yeah. But anywho, on to our next question.
Oh, I dropped some nuts.
In our yesterday quiz. Yeah, make sure that the dog doesn't get those. We move to the year 1906. You okay?
Yes.
A baseball game and live music help inaugurate this theme park, open to the public but meant for employees, and located about 14 miles east of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Oh.
Well, what was it? Okay, so opening date. Oh, no, I need my question, Mr. Question Man. So think about it. We go to 1906 here. So on this opening date, you had a baseball game and live music inaugurating a theme park, open to the public, but meant.
Was the name of a president?
Was who?
Did it have the name of the president in it?
No. No. It did have the name of the president of the company in it. Because it was initially basically for employees, but open to the public.
It was where?
14 miles east of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Oh, I know where.
Okay, give it one more moment.
We were there.
We were. You know what it is. Hold on.
I made a picture.
Do we have any? Do anybody?
No,
Any takers?
We had a picture of us with some of the characters.
That is correct. Mm-hmm. Why don't you give it, Dave? What was the answer? What was the place?
Hershey's Park.
Hershey Park, Pennsylvania. That's right. It was constructed for the employees of Hershey to have this nice place to take their families. And
That's so cool.
yeah, absolutely. Founded by Milton S. Hershey back in 1906. Okay, here we go. On to our next question for our Today-Yesterday quiz. May 30th, 1922. Former president and then
There's
chief.
a bit of a delay, so.
I'm sorry, what?
Delay.
Oh, well, yeah, that's why I'm trying to give. That's why I can't do this like Jeopardy, where Alex Trebek just rattles off the questions. I've got to be like, okay, I'll read it twice. I'll vamp a little. I'll show the question mark. I'll play the xylophone. Pick Potato's nose a little bit because he gets little tuber boogers there. Anywho, on to our next question. 1922 was the year former president and then Chief Justice William Howard Taft. He dedicated a new building today, the Lincoln Memorial. Since 1929, so a few years later, a picture of the memorial has appeared on the back of what U.S. currency? And I'll give a multiple choice. Is it the $5 bill, the $10 bill, the $20 bill, or all of the above?
Uh-oh.
So
That's a trick.
back of the bill. So on this date, the Lincoln Memorial opened.
Most
Yeah.
people have not used money in so long. When's the last time you used paper money?
Weirdly enough,
Yeah.
living in this town, in here as opposed to Colorado, more than I was for the past 10 years in Colorado.
Why?
Colorado, I used credit cards everywhere. Here, where we live.
See, look, it's delayed. Lisa said, Rich says Hershey's.
Oh, okay. So I'm going to
It's
give it a little more
right,
time to get an answer
Yeah.
on this question. But here's the deal. We have a couple of different restaurants here where they either don't take credit cards or they didn't. Remember Debbie and Larry's?
Oh, yeah.
It was cash only. And there's a couple of places like
Or
that
you
that
could
are
pay
cash
with the
only.
chicken.
I'm sorry, what?
Or chicken.
I don't get it.
You could pay with the chicken.
Oh, or you can pay, I don't know what happened, or I can pay with him. Yeah. And then even there's a local Chinese place I would go for lunch. And rather than deal with credit card or something, it's like $6 or $7. I'm like, I just hand them the dough.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I found myself actually using more paper money and cash living here than I did really, because I'll use credit card whenever and wherever. I'm going to build points on my Discover because I'm cheap like that. Anywho, so Lisa, I know we're delayed, but let's give us one last shot.
Slow, honey. Hold on. Just say the thing again
Yeah.
and wait, because I feel like we cheated her out of that answer. Because I don't know who Rich is. It's probably her hubby or maybe her kid, but she got a response.
Okay.
So,
Well, do we have one on this one? It's 1922. The Lincoln Memorial was inaugurated. Since
right.
1929, a picture of the Lincoln Memorial
I'm
has
right.
appeared on the back of what U.S. currency? And the choices are the $5 bill, the $10 bill, the $20 bill, or all three.
About a Lincoln.
So let's give that a moment. Oh, can I hold up this?
Sorry. I just said any guesses about Lincoln Memorial.
Because I mean, this I know it's delayed, but should have enough time by now.
Well, you never know. People have to get out money.
No, that's no fair. No fair looking. No fair.
I can't do that because I don't have money.
Well, I'm gonna do.
Hold on. Uh-oh. There's a conflict. We gotta Sin Jeff situation going on with
With
Lisa
Rich,
and her hubby.
yeah.
Lisa thinks it's the 20. The hubby thinks it's the 5.
Ooh.
Uh-oh.
Oh, this is gonna be a fight tonight in that
Uh-oh.
home.
And they're sequestered. So
No, is this Lisa from my writing group or a different Lisa?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I didn't. Okay, cool. Hello, Lisa. So, and she's a friend of the Daverhood. She's been on the show on our New Year's shows and stuff. So, hi, Lisa. So here's the deal. Do you want to take a guess also, hon? Do you want to take
I
a?
think it's on all money.
Is that the 1, the 2, the 2, the 5?
Here's a 2.
Here's the deal. The answer is it's the same. The president that it's named after, the Lincoln Memorial,
Yes.
is on this denomination on the front.
Which one?
Well, you want to
It's
take
either the 5 or the 20.
Yeah.
According to the 5 is Lisa's husband, the 20 is Lisa, and I
Right.
see all of them.
Well, but I'm saying the answer is Lincoln himself appears on the front
5.
of this bill.
5.
You got it. It's the $5 bill.
Rich and I got it right. Lisa got it wrong.
Well, Lisa, there's a couple more chances. You can get some of these next ones right. Here we go. 1964 is the year. A very wonderful year
Wait,
because
if we
I was
did-
born.
If we did SIF for Cynthia and Jeff, what are we going to do for Rich and Lisa? Lisa?
Lich, or Risa, yeah. Gisa? Wait, Rich and Lisa. Relisa. How about Relisa? No, maybe not. We'll work on it. We'll work on it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
There's a problem in the household. She said her hubby's gloating.
Is there? Oh. Gee, what's it like when you're right and your wife is wrong and you start to gloat? I wouldn't ever know. Anywho, we move on to the year 1964. After 667 performances,
Oh my God.
a sketch comedy show,
Oh, Dave's gone by.
if only, starring Alan Bennett, Dudley Moore, Jonathan Miller,
Oh,
and
she calls it Richly.
Richly.
That's nice. Like Rich with L-I for Lisa. Richly.
Which is richly deserved, I believe.
Yes.
All right. 1964 is the year.
I gave them a love. I like that one.
Closing today on Broadway at the John Golden Theater is this sketch comedy show, which starred Alan Bennett, Dudley Moore, Jonathan Miller, and Peter Cook. Can you name this seminal show in British comedy history? So I gotta give that a little time.
Say it again. Go slow.
Well, I'll say it again, and I'll do a little pitch for Minuteman. But this show closed after like almost 2 years on Broadway at the John Golden Theater. Dudley Moore, Peter Cook, Jonathan Miller, Alan Bennett, the quartet, in this satirical, silly, fun, somewhat musical, spoofy sketch comedy show. And
I said, what
quite
is a
important
British comedy show?
What was that?
British comedy show?
Yeah, well, yeah. What was the name of it? What was the name? It was kind of the name of the troupe, but more just the name of the show itself. What was the name? And while you're thinking of that, I want to remind you that we do this show by the kind auspices of our friends at Hewlett Minuteman Press, the copy kings of Broadway. Since the mid-1970s, the Torong family has owned and operated Minuteman, the franchise in Hewlett, Long Island. When I lived in Colorado, I was using their services because they're so great to work with. And they will do printing and copying and binding and putting your name or company logo or decal on any kind of clothing, any sort of musical instrument, any sporting goods, any calendars or pens or pencils, banners, balloons, flyers. They're also known for doing business cards as well as wedding invitations. If it's going to help you or your business, Hewlett Minuteman Press is there for you. And they've been open, they're an essential service. They've been open limited hours, but this whole COVID time, now I imagine they're going to be adding more hours and going back to more of their normal routine. You should definitely give them a call, especially, yeah.
Do you think they could photocopy the vaccine and share it?
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe they'll get a 3D printer so that when there is a vaccine, they can just manufacture like 1 million of them in a week. Totally. Hewlett Minuteman Press can do it. And not only that, when you get your vaccine, 3D, from Hewlett Minuteman Press,
I hope you don't have a lawyer.
tell them Dave sent you, and you get 10% off.
No, you get they won't make the shot an ouchie.
That's right. If you don't mention my name, the shot will hurt like crazy.
Oh.
It will go into your bloodstream. You'll feel it in your ears. You'll have diarrhea for a week. Wait, hold on. Let me finish the Hewlett Minuteman thing. Hewlett Minuteman Press, they're the copy kings of Broadway. I wasn't joking though about the 10% off. If you tell them I sent you, no matter what job, big or small, tell them Dave sent you.
And David, say this.
10% off. Yeah.
And in this economy, in the COVID and post-COVID economy,
Yeah.
it's very important that we support local businesses because
Yeah.
you know you have relationships with them. They work very hard. They live in the community, and the small businesses and franchises don't have the same level of bailout. I'm sure that the massive corps do. So it's nice to support small businesses that also give back to the community. I mean, I think that's really nice.
Absolutely true. Because, Minuteman is this huge thing. They're all over the world, all over the country, but each franchise is its own business. And the Toron family, who have been incredibly supportive of, fire departments and of, other communities and community services, very involved in the local Long Island community, help them out, support them, and get what you need done very well. Hewlett Minuteman Press, 516-569-5577, area code 516-569-5577. They are the copy kings. Okay, so I'm sorry.
So Richley has to go, but, but they do have an answer.
So the answer, let me read the question one more time. Okay. We're in the middle of our Today, Yesterday quiz. I'm asking about the show that starred Alan Bennett, Peter Cook, and Dudley Moore, Jonathan Miller, on Broadway, closed today in history back in 1964, and the troupe name was?
1964 High Fives.
Really?
No, is that?
That's what they came up with.
Maybe that's not the answer.
No, that's not. No.
It was Monty Python.
Was not Monty Python.
It was, Benny Hill.
Was not Benny Hill.
It was Dudley Moore's.
Well, Peter Cook and Dudley Moore went off to
Pink Panther.
No, Peter Sellers was an influence because he was in the Goon show that strongly influenced both Python and this group, who were Beyond the Fringe.
Oh.
What am I hearing? Crickets? It's Beyond the Fringe. Anyway, and what's really good is when I was researching these questions this week, I came across on YouTube, they actually taped for television Beyond the Fringe in like 1964. Or 66. So you can actually watch the whole show. Well, they're all dead. Oh, no, sorry. Excuse me.
Oh God! Whoops.
Shame on me. Alan Bennett is a playwright. He's alive and well, but Peter Cook is gone. Dudley Moore is gone, and I believe Jonathan Miller passed a year or two ago. But Alan Bennett is still around. Anywho, Beyond the Fringe, very influential show. And it came to Broadway. Anyway, sorry that we're losing Richley, but you guys stick around. I know, it's 12 o'clock. We're supposed to leave. Not leaving so quick. I got more to do. I got this Today, Yesterday quiz. I have the Colorado Limerick of the Damned, Friends of the Daverhood.
He's going under the bed. That's usually food time.
Yeah, no,
do you need anything?
No, I could use just a refill of the tea. And tea right there. Much appreciated. So, alas, we're losing a couple of our viewers, but I hope you guys are staying tuned. Because we're going to finish the show. We got more to do, including our Today, Yesterday quiz on this Saturday, May 30th, 2020, the 748th edition of Dave's Gone By. With me, Dave Leftwitz, my darling and wonderful wife, Joyce. We're here every Saturday from 9 until noon.
Do you want ice cube?
Thereabouts. Oh, great. Thank you so much. And this is the kind of thing we do. We had that wonderful interview earlier.
Oh, he was a great, wow, how interesting.
Terrific one. Yeah.
I like it when a guest brings their own resume. You know they're prepared.
He had.
I mean, my God, David.
8 by 10s.
He had he had more props than.
If I ever get to interview a president or something, I was like, let me scroll through my high school yearbook to show you. I was like,
we never had a guest that was so prepared.
Fabulous. Love that. Anyway. On to the last couple of questions. And by the way, it doesn't just have to be Lisa and Rich or Richley. It can be whoever is watching. And if you want to chime in first and type in your answer, and beat everyone else on our quiz, please do go for it. We've got 3 more questions today, yesterday. 1967 is the year. Published today. Oh, my wife would know this one. Let me, I'm going to put them out of order because I want her to have the fun of getting this one right. So we'll move to 1970 and then go backwards. Another theater question. Ooh. After running only 80 performances, the musical Minnie's Boys closed at Broadway's Imperial Theater. Based on real people, who were Minnie's Boys? I'm going to tilt this forward a little bit. Just get that there. So that's our question in our quiz. I've got to hold up the big old question mark, ladies and gentlemen. Minnie's Boys, not a hit musical on Broadway, but it did make it to Broadway. And it was about, I'll hint, some people who had been on Broadway, Minnie's Boys. Who were they? So I'm going to give you a little thought for you guys to kind of puzzle out. And I'll wait on the musical accompaniment or the thinking music. What else can I tell you while you're thinking? How else can I spend this precious, valuable time that we all have on this Saturday morning? I told you about Unit Minuteman Press, told you about Performing Arts Insider. Did I mention the website Total Theater, which is a free website of theater reviews from all around the world? It's absolutely free. Hasn't really been updated with much for the past 2 months for obvious reasons, but our archives are there. So you can go and read reviews of shows for the past 20 years all over the country and all over the world, totaltheater.com. And you can spell that with an E-R or an R-E, your choice. All right, I'm going to read the question one more time. 1970 is the year. After running only 80 performances, the musical Minnie's Boys closed at Broadway's Imperial Theater. Based on real people it was. Who were Minnie's Boys? I'll give you a clue here. Yeah, forget the tune, it's just the cadence of it. Anyway, if you can hear the strings of Hooray for Captain Spaulding, you will know that Minnie's Boys was based on the life of the Marx brothers. Their mom was Minnie Schoenberg, née Minnie Marx, or I never get that with the N-E-E thing. Is the née, she's Marx née Schoenberg or Schoenberg née Marx? She married a guy named Marx. She had these kids, and these kids became the Marx brothers. As a matter of fact, Groucho's son, Arthur Marx, wrote or co-wrote the book of this show, Minnie's Boys. It was a musical, and really it was the Marx brothers' rise and career from the perspective of their show business mom. As a matter of fact, Minnie Marx, her brother, was comedian Al Sheen of Gallagher and Sheen. And by the way, just so you know, the flop musical of Minnie's Boys, Minnie was played by Shelley Winters, just in case. So, okay, hold on. I'll do one more question and then I'll go back to the one I'm sure Joyce will know. We move up all the way to 2003 for our penultimate question in our Today Yesterday quiz. Released today was the underwater blockbuster film Finding Nemo, created by Pixar and distributed by Disney. Ellen DeGeneres, of course, was the voice of the memory-impaired Dory, and 9-year-old Alexander Gould played Nemo. But who was the voice of Nemo's dad? It's one of those that's on the tip of everybody's tongue, but maybe you don't remember. So Finding Nemo, this terrific animated movie, blockbuster film, financially too, 2003, was released to theaters, became a huge, huge hit. Among the voice actors, it's actually so appropriate that we've had Stuart Zagnit on the show today, voice actor. So in Finding Nemo, we all know that Ellen DeGeneres was Dory the fish. Alexander Gould played Little Nemo.
Okay.
Who was the voice of Nemo's father?
Jeffrey Epstein.
God.
No?
No, he went for a very different kind of tuna, if you know what I'm saying. It was not Jeffrey Epstein. What actor, and I'll give a hint, known mostly as a comedian or comic actor and comic filmmaker? Any thoughts? I'll let you answer.
Mandy Patinkin?
Was not Mandy Patinkin. That's not a bad guess. I'll give you another hint. He is a comedian whose most recent film as a director and star was 2005's Looking for Comedy in the Muslim World, because he's one of those risk-taking.
Gilbert Gottfried.
Not Gilbert. Although Gilbert, of course, does the parrot and Aladdin and other things like that. But no.
I don't know, honey.
I'll give you one more hint. Okay, he was one of the stars of the popular comedy film Broadcast News.
I don't know that film.
Oh, okay. Then I don't know if I can help you beyond that. Anyway, the answer is.
Wait, was it Richard Dreyfuss?
Well, these are really good ideas, but no, it wasn't Richard Dreyfuss. It was the director of such films as Real Life and Lost in America.
Oh, Will Smith.
Nope, not Will Smith.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Gah. It was Albert Brooks.
I wouldn't have known that.
Really? Oh, Albert Brooks played Marlin, the father of Nemo, in Finding Nemo.
I thought Nemo was a surrogate fish.
Yes, his real life son. What?
Really?
Yeah, as far as I recall. And Nemo goes to find, the great big world, and
I just remember Nemo from the restaurant in Greeley called Lucky Fins, and I always thought, yeah, too close.
Yeah, well, we just saw a kids show, an animated children's show we were watching about potatoes. And they showed like these potatoes being really excited. And the point of the show was, how are potatoes made? And these little story bots, well, how are French fries made? Where do French fries come from? Is asked by this little girl who is old enough to actually know how French fries.
She has like missing teeth. Like maybe she's on meth.
Something wrong with her.
She's on meth.
Yeah, I mean, if she were a 2-year-old,
She's
okay.
on meth.
Meth, you think it was a meth addict? Yeah. But she's like, how are French fries made? And then they go about and showing all these potatoes who are excited to be scrubbed and peeled and chopped. And it's like, oh, yay! It's something really messed up about that. If you get to watch it, it's on Netflix. It's The Story Box with a special appearance by Weird Al Yankovic. Shows you just how desperate we are for watching things on TV during this pandemic. And I saved one last question for you, though.
All right. I'm seeing you being pink down. We're pink all the time, David. Why am I always pink?
I don't know. At your age, the thing down there should be not pink anymore. But you started it. Joyce is handing me evil cookie. Anytime I'm bad, she hands me evil inedible cookie. Here we go.
I'm ready.
1967 is the year.
Okay.
Published today in Spanish was this classic work of magic realism dealing with several generations of the Buendía family in Colombia.
Oh.
Name the author and the novel. Hold on, give people a chance.
I know what it is.
Give people a chance.
Is he Portuguese or Spanish?
Spanish, I believe.
No. I know what
or
it
probably
is.
Colombian.
Can I guess?
Not yet.
I'll get it wrong. So
I'm gonna read the question one more time. Published on May 30th, 1967, in Español. And notice how I take such pride in doing the Español. Was this classic work of magic realism
Too COVID.
dealing with several generations of the Buendía family of Colombia. Can you name the author and this magical realism novel? And I'm going to give you a little countdown. So, or actually considering Spanish.
Isn't it like Caleo? It's The Alchemist?
No, not Paulo Coelho. No.
Give me again.
1967 in Spanish.
Oh, it's
major work.
Is it Neruda?
You're on the right. Not Pablo Neruda. He's got 3 names in his name.
Lin-Manuel Noriega?
No. But another three-named person, a novelist back in the day. I think he died a couple of. I think he died recently, as a matter of
When
fact.
you say it.
De
¿De qué país?
I'm not sure. I think Colombia. I'm not
¿Qué es
sure.
el nombre del libro?
That's part of the question. You have to guess the question and the name and the author. If you get one, you'll get the other. But
Love in the Time of Cholera?
written by.
Neruda? That's not Neruda. Love in the Time of Cholera is written by. Oh my God.
I think that's the same guy.
I can't.
Three names, tres nombres.
Si diga uno.
Think about it this way. Everybody in this COVID
I'm
era.
thinking Gabriel Garcia Lorca. But Gabriel Garcia Lorca is not Gabriel Garcia. Not Lorca.
Not Lorca,
Lorca's
not
old.
Lorca, but you got 2 out of 3.
Gabriel Garcia. Mendez? Munoz?
Close. No. Gabriel Garcia Marquez.
Oh my God. How
thought
did
you get that one.
miss it?
But it's not Love in the Time of Cholera. What's his other really, really famous book?
100 Years of Solitude.
Bingo!
There you go.
There we go.
Listen, I still didn't drink my second cup of
I
tea.
know.
I got and that room's like hot like hell. This room's like an ice box.
Yeah.
I got the dog. I'm doing the chat. We had to rename
Yeah.
people
Look,
racially.
And please understand, folks, it's easy
And I
for me.
gave
I've
you a
got the
plastic
answers in
straw
front.
to make you happy.
You got me a plastic. Look at this. I mean, now I'm going to get COVID because the rabbi was drinking from this, and he left it for me. But notice, a real plastic straw doesn't get stuck to my gums, doesn't get stuck to my teeth. It could, if I were careless, go into the tiny little hole I still have from my cleft palate. But it hasn't. It hasn't. It isn't. It's a perfect thing.
Don't go there.
Anyway, we're doing Dave's Gone By. With me, Dave Lefkowitz. We've just gotten through our yesterday quiz for today, May 30th, 2020. Are we done with the show? Is it time to go? No.
Never.
No. We have more to do, ladies and
Wait,
gentlemen.
there's more.
But wait, there is more. But there are kind of some short things that we want to do. For example, we have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned coming up, and it's all going to be about Last Chance Colorado. And we have our friends of the Daverhood to talk about. But before then, you okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm multitasking.
Before then, I love music. I love Bob Dylan and Randy Newman and Tom Waits.
Are you going to do anything to celebrate Bob Dylan's birthday?
I listened to some Bob Dylan music. In fact, I was listening yesterday. I played I Contain Multitudes again. It's really good.
Good.
Yeah, I had gotten into the John F. Kennedy one that's 17 minutes long. But
now we know why he was assassinated. Like, no more, Bob.
No, but I Contain Multitudes. Actually, it's pretty neat. It's pretty wonderful stuff. Anyway, but no, I also, of course, love the Rolling Stones, which is why our wretched pun of destiny has to do with Mick Jagger. Now, as I warn you, see, children can stay in the room for this. It's not dirty or anything. It's a horrible, horrible, stupid pun. And we do one of these really every week just because I love to torture you.
Nice.
And this wretched pun of destiny is going to be about Mick Jagger. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado or a don't, we have this week's wretched pun of destiny.
The day has gone by, wretched pun of destiny.
Bought by Western Digital in 2016, SanDisk remains the world's 4th largest maker of flash drives and memory cards. But back in 1988, it was a brand new company, founded by 3 computer geeks desperate to get SanDisk on the market. What if we get the Rolling Stones to promote it, said one nerd. I hear Mick Jagger is very into computers. Turns out he was, and a week later, they had Jagger in the studio, filming an ad. The director told him, okay, Mr. Jagger, first thing we need you to do is to demonstrate copying files from the SanDisk floppy to the hard drive. Sounds easy, said the Stones leader. It is, the director replied. We're marketing to parents, so the floppy has 1,000 children's math questions on it. Word problems, fractions, exponents. Just type the commands to copy all the files from disk to disk. Action! The Stones leader typed the keystrokes, and within seconds, the files were moved. But not all of them. Maybe it's a glitch, said the director. Try again. So Jagger again selected 1,000 mathematical files and tried to move them. Hundreds of the questions copied over. But when the PA checked, she saw that any problem with fractions in it would not copy to the computer. Jagger tried twice more to move them, but they wouldn't budge. Frustrated, the singer threw on his coat and stormed towards the door. This is ridiculous, he yelled. I try, and I try, and I try, and I try. I can't get no SanDisk fractions.
That was clever. That was a clever one.
Clever, and I still apologize.
We here at Dave's Gone By apologize for bringing you the wretched pun of destiny.
Let's keep the classical music going, because I'm gonna do penance for telling that story by doing our Friends of the Daverhood. Now, this week we had the marvelous fun of having Rabbi Sol Solomon chat with Stuart Zagnit, the actor, the voiceover guy, and it was just a delightful guest and a new friend of the Daverhood. When you come on the show, we keep tabs on you because we think of you as friends and family, and also I'm kind of pervy and into surveillance. So we want to know what you've been up to since if you are a theater person, are you doing a different show? If you're a novelist, if you're a new novel, if you have a new album out, if you're a songwriter. So we call this segment Friends of the Daverhood because we want to know what our friends have been doing. For example, tonight, Saturday night at 8 o'clock, the Vineyard Theater is sponsoring an online kind of a benefit virtual variety show with the title of Showcast involved, and also some other famous people, including our friend Linda Lavin. They're asking for a $25 donation. I assume you have to pay and they'll send you a code so you can watch it, or it may be free and they're just asking for $25. But you can check by going to the Vineyard Theater website online for tonight's virtual variety show, which will feature Linda Lavin. Also tonight, the 9th, Jorma Kaukonen concert. He's doing these little acoustic concerts by himself at his Fur Peace Ranch, and you're free to watch. Just go to YouTube to see Jorma Kaukonen do his thing. And then also tonight, I didn't realize this. David Cale is also going to be part of the Vineyard Theater thing. So he and Linda Lavin are both part of that. Tomorrow, our friend Leslie Jordan, there's going to be a live stream of his play, Sordid Lives. I don't have the, unfortunately, the URL on that, but just go looking for Leslie Jordan, Sordid Lives, and you can watch that online tomorrow. Also, tomorrow, Carol Demas and her friend and longtime colleague Paula Janis will be taking part in the Long Island Music Hall of Fame Heroes Benefit that will be broadcast live on News 12 Long Island. I mean, it's a virtual live show, but Carol Demas and Paula Janis, Carol and Paula, The Magic Garden, yeah. So you can see them both, and they will be tomorrow on that benefit streaming on News 12, and on TV on News 12. On Monday, June 1st, there's the True Crime Obsessed podcast will be streaming live from the Helen Hayes Theater on Broadway. I guess they're going to let her in. It's Gillian Pensaval, who is our friend of the Daverhood, and she will be hosting. Now, she's gotten real traction on this live true crime podcast that she does, Gillian Pensaval. So congratulations to her on that. Also, on Tuesday night, the 1st, Dick Hyman, can't say that name without smiling, but yes, Dick Hyman, a very, very well-known composer and pianist. He has a new piece that is being premiered called Click, Clock, Tick, Tock, and you can find that at worksandprocess.org. That is Tuesday night at 7:30. Also, I'm sorry. Not Tuesday, Monday. It's Monday for the podcast of True Crime, Monday for Dick Hyman's piece being premiered at worksandprocess.org. Also, Monday night, there's a benefit for the Public Theater featuring Laura Benanti, Meryl Streep, Liev Schreiber, a whole bunch of other folks, including our friend J.O. Sanders, who was in, of course, the musical Girl from the North Country that was just opened on Broadway before it was temporarily closed for COVID. So he is in this. He will be part of this benefit. Go to publictheater.org, Public Theater, for this benefit that is happening on Monday night. And remember that you can also see J.O. Sanders in the Gabriel plays that PBS is doing. Those are plays by our friend Richard Nelson that were filmed, they were taped at the Public Theater for installments, if you will, of this continuing series of plays about one family, the Gabriel family, done at the Public Theater, and J.O. Sanders is in all of them as well. On Tuesday, Tuesday, June 2nd, Tuesday, June 2nd, Ruben Santiago Hudson is taking part in the New Federal Theater's Rapping with the Artists series. So it's like an online conversation series, and actor and director Ruben Santiago Hudson will be taking part in that. And then on the 3rd, Melissa Errico is part of the Poetry in America tribute to Stephen Sondheim's Finishing the Hat. You're going to check that out. And then I keep getting updates from our recent friends Eric Comstock and Barbara Fasano. Now, normally, once a week, they're appearing doing cabaret together. Obviously, they can't do that at the moment, but they've been posting songs all over their YouTube page. Eric Comstock and Barbara Fasano, go check their YouTube page. I want to remind you that Dr. Demento is still doing Dr. Demento shows at his website, drdemento.com. So he's making new ones during the COVID crisis. You can also subscribe and hear Demento episodes from like 1975 and 85. It's this treasure trove of his episodes that he has there at drdemento.com. Check out the website stagebuddy.com, which was founded by our friend Evan Seplow. It's all about New York nightlife, and even though there isn't any at the moment, there's still stories about stuff to do during COVID. It's stagebuddy.com. And remember that bobcudmore.com is a cool place to go for podcasts about upstate New York history. And those, my friends, are the friends of the Daverhood. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's 12:30 in the afternoon here in the Daverhood. We're doing the Dave's Gone By 748th episode. I'm Dave Lefkowitz. My darling and adorable wife, Joyce, has been joining us, as has Rabbi Sol Solomon when he was interviewing Stuart Zagnit earlier in the program. And remember, if you want to find out more about Rabbi Sol, his website is shalomdammit.com. Shalom, D-A-M-M-I-T, shalomdammit.com. And you can spend just hours there enjoying his mini sermons. They're called Rabbinical Reflections. There are links to them on YouTube where he reads them. They're also, you can read them yourself, but it's kind of great to hear them in his voice. Also, his solo show that he did at the Richmond Shepherd Theater many years ago called Shalom Dammit, An Evening with Rabbi Sol Solomon. Footage, the whole film of it, is right there at shalomdammit.com, as are 10 hilarious episodes of the TV show that he did on Long Island cable television a decade ago called Shalom Dammit, Rabbi Sol Solomon's Peace, Love, and Acid Reflux Hour. It's all at shalomdammit.com. Well, we've done so much. We've done our Today, Yesterday quiz. We had our guest. We did Inside Broadway. We did a little bit Greeley Crimes at All Times. We updated our resumes. We did so much. We even had our Colorado Limerick.
Your friends.
Didn't do our dictionary thing because I'm getting a little talked out, but I think No. I think
Sure?
we're plus. It's already 12:30.
Oh
We're
my
3.5
God.
hours into the show. So, is there anything else to do? Is there anything?
No.
Oh. See, we did the Wretched Pun of Destiny, but we did not yet do the Colorado
Right.
Limerick of the Damned.
Oh,
Yeah.
you forgot that one.
Yeah, she forgot that one. We all want to forget about it. As I was telling Lisa before, when I was living in Colorado, for no particular reason, I started writing a poem about all these different places in Colorado. Famous ones like Denver and Fort Colorado, and then other places you've never ever heard of, and finding a little 5-line limerick poem about each and every one of them that I could. We have another one. We have a new one this week. I do one every week. And because they're limericks, they're kind of awful and naughty and rude. You might want to spirit the children away from the computer, away from the, I know it's COVID, but they can play in the streets for 2 or 3 minutes. It's fine. Just to get them away in time for the Colorado Limerick of the Damned. This is your last chance.
A limerick is a comic verse of 5 lines, in which lines 1, 2, and 5 end with words that rhyme. And likewise, verses 3 and 4 also end with words that rhyme. So this is a limerick.
Yes, indeed. It's our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. And we go, and I wasn't kidding, to a place called Last Chance, Colorado. It's, let me tell you, I'm just trying to find something here. Where is it? Oh, okay, here we go. An unincorporated town in actually northern Colorado, not far from where Joyce and I were living. As you might expect, the town is at the cross-section of 2 highways and was the last place drivers could get rest and provision for many, many miles. Last chance. As a matter of fact, this is true, Hee Haw, the TV show Hee Haw, on November 16th, 1974, they saluted Last Chance, Colorado, population 25. Back in the day, it had actually more going for it. It had a motel and some cafes and a Dairy King, but has not been the best of times for Last Chance, Colorado. In 1993, they had a terrible tornado that destroyed some farms, although no one was killed because nobody was really living there. And then in 2012, a fire burned 45,000 acres. And what happened was that the place was really a happening town, and then they ended up building I-70 nearby. So people bypassed the whole thing and just went straight up I-70 without stopping. But anyway, Last Chance still sort of exists as a ghost town. It's going to be even more ghostly and ghastly as I do our Colorado Limerick of the Damned.
I think people are going to leave.
For why you
I
say?
think they're going to leave the town.
Oh, really? Well, when they hear this, the last 25 people.
This is not by the Visitors Bureau, I assume.
No, certainly not. There should be an exodus bureau in towns that really shouldn't be lived in, like Chernobyl. Shouldn't have a visitors bureau. They should have an exodus bureau. Here we go. Our Colorado Limerick of the Damned for Last Chance, Colorado. If you ever visit Last Chance, be sure that you know how to dance. One fellow who stumbled was so badly humbled, the dumb SOB shit his pants. Yeah. I know. Oh, yeah, I know. Yes, that's our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. Please send your comments and complaints to me. Dave's Gone By at AOL.com. Remember, it's Dave like my name with a V. Dave's Gone By at AOL.com. I read all the mail I get. I don't necessarily respond because I don't want to get killed, but that's a place to reach me. You can also, of course, message me on my Facebook page, Dave's Gone By, whether it's during the show or all week long. Would love to see your thoughts, your suggestions for future shows, what you liked about this show or past shows, anything. Dave's Gone By the Facebook page or Dave's Gone By at AOL.com. Please also like and follow me on Twitter. Radio Dave 2 is the place to do that. Radio Dave and the number 2. Either way, would love to hear from you. Want to remind you one more time that our website, davesgoneby.com, is where all our archives reside. It's absolutely free to surf at your leisure, to download hundreds of shows that we've done.
What happens if I want to get Performing Arts Insider?
If you go to Performing Arts, thank you. If you want to go to Performing Arts.
I can't get it in the mail because of my COVID.
Well, for the moment, Performing Arts Insider Theater Magazine is
It's a musical.
We're still doing the issues, but we're emailing them to our subscribers as PDFs. But as soon as we can, we're going to go back to hard copy print issues of Performing Arts Insider, the Bible of Broadway. Go to performingartsinsider.com to find out more about that.
Will you come next week with the Joan of Arc haircut?
I'm long past the days when I could do a Joan of Arc haircut. I'm lucky if I can do a Kojak haircut at this point. You know what I'm saying. Anywho, want to remind you or thank one more time to Stuart Zagnit, the delightful actor, delightful guy.
Check out his resume on LinkedIn.
You can find him there. If you want to hire him for voice acting, he's out there. He wants to do it, especially while he's waiting to get back into Caroline or Change when that restarts production on Broadway. So remember, you can find him in Cameo, he mentioned.
Oreo.
And go to the Caroline or Change official website to find out what's happening with that show, like so many other Broadway shows. But we thank Stu Zagnit so much for being with us in the Daverhood. And really, really just a delightful time with him. And a delightful time with all of you tuning in week after week. A wonderful time with my lovely and adorable wife, Joyce. Say hi, Joyce.
Hi, Joyce.
Hi, Joyce. I thank her so much for the help she brings me while I'm doing this show and for what she does all week long in my life. Thank you to Potato. Potato was very good today. He didn't bomb. The screw had a chicken bomb for one moment, but we didn't have a potato bomb. So now, Potato, now's your chance. Now you can be like, you know, I've got Zoom fright. Really? Potato, you're afraid? No. Oh, God, I forgot my lines. Line. Oh,
Aye.
No, he actually means he's going to go do a line of catch-up after the show ends. But ladies and gentlemen, one more reminder that next Saturday, we've got our regular show. We're going to be here, God willing, from 9 until noon or thereabouts for the 749th episode of Dave's Gone By. But this one, coming up, will be our 16th annual theater show, our Broadway special. I was going to call it our Tony show because that's what we called it for so many years. No Tonys yet this time, so it's a Broadway show. We'll be talking with critics, friends of mine and colleagues of mine, about the shows that they saw this season, because there were a bunch. We're going to be asking them what they loved this season on Broadway, their favorite all-time Broadway experiences, also their suggestions and thoughts on how to keep Broadway and theater open and safe when things start getting rolling again. Just marvelous questions to ask these people, and one after another, they will chime in. We'll also have some Broadway trivia, and I will do a Broadway timeline, which will tell you, even though not all the Broadway shows opened last season, a lot of them did. So we'll take it show by show by show, give you a little bit of information about each one so you can feel like a Broadway insider. That is all next week on our Dave's Gone By 16th annual Broadway special. Do not miss it. And of course, more importantly, tell your friend. Well, no, most importantly, you watch. Second most importantly, your friends watch. Third most importantly, your enemies watch. I want everybody tuning in. So, is there anything we haven't covered on this episode of Dave's Gone By? I think we're good. I think we are ready. So, ladies and gentlemen, it just remains for me to wish you health. Have a riot-free week if you can. God, is it end times? You really start to wonder. Health and a good June, right? Enjoy the incredible weather out there. Things are loosening up. New York is starting to open up, so be safe, but also don't be crazy hermetic safe. You can go out there. You can wear a mask, all right? You can self-distance and do some of the things that you haven't been able to do for 2 months. So go out and be grateful and enjoy that you can do them. And gone by.
Days gone by, days gone by, days gone by.
Gone by.